Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice by Sword of the Gods, Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course. I don't own anything. Adios.
Get away, Shuzo, the vice admiral grunted. I thought you were dead. Momonga, the now named Shuzo responded. Why are you standing there and not fighting the wanted pirates behind you? There are processes to be followed. You should know that. Are you the one responsible for all the destroyed pirates these last few months in the area? I am, the man nodded. Now step aside and let me and my men kill these pathetic pirates. Or better yet, help us do so. I can't allow that. Pirates must be taken to trial before.
Always so by the book, Shuzo interrupted with a shake of his head. I should have known. Fine then. If you won't help us or step aside, then you're an enemy in collaboration with pirates, and I will be your judge and jury. Alpacasino. The alpaca at his side perked up at its name. The animal opened its mouth, a light shining from within. Fire at will.
And the alpaca spit up a missile. The boom of the alpaca firing a projectile from its throat echoed over the waters, the shining missile smoking its way over the ocean. Vice Admiral Momonga drew his sword, reading a block that would slice the attack in two, redirecting each half into the Straw Hat pirates behind him while maintaining the safety of the prisoner, only for a pair of tempest kicks to race over his head. Cross-sailed Typhoon. Mary yelled, the Clabouterman leaping over the marine and launching a storm of tempest kicks each crossed in X-shaped pairs. The first one impacted the missile, blowing it to smithereens from its own explosives, while the rest passed through the resulting smoke and fire to litter Shuzo's men with debilitating but not life-threatening cuts. What? Shuzo demanded as the white-haired girl landed. Bahahaha. Mary laughed, hands on her hips. That's a cool pet you got there, but ours can fly, now, Billy. Wah! The electric gigafowl dove from above, banking around Shuzo until he was between the long arm and the alpaca. With a squawk, the bird released a charge. Shuzo reacted quickly, the black sheen of hockey coating his arms and absorbing the attack. The animal had no such luxury, however, the electricity coursing through its meat and circuitry.
Me, Alpacasino. The man yelled as Billy flapped away, the long arm rushing to the side of his partner. Little bits of static sparked off the burnt part animal, Shuzo falling to his knees as he scooped Alpacasino into his arms. The zone weapon turned to him with a wince. You'll be fine, Alpacasino. You've taken worse than this.
Me, Alpacasino answered with a nod, the man laying him down with an order to rest. He stood, turning a glare on the pirates as the fly squad settled on the raft. Brannigan, Shuzo yelled. Identify. The attacker was Ghost Ship, Going Merry, a Clabouterman, sir. The lackey with the wanted posters answered. The pirates that just arrived are Thunderbird, Billy. A newly identified straw hat worth 17 million, Weightless Woman, Amy. Spring Wind, Kaku. A government turncoat worth 74 million, and who we suspect to be Black Leg, Sanji, though he doesn't match the poster, sir. Damn that poster. Sanji roared. Once I get my feet on the moron that drew it, all. Pirates, Shuzo roared, pointing at the group on the raft. I am Shuzo, a vice admiral of the Neo Marines. For his ambition and your transgressions against humanity, I will wipe you from the face of the earth. The Neo Marines, Momonga scoffed. Until you disappeared, you were a member of the actual Marines. Who is it that you now claim to serve? What is his ambition? A world without pirates, Shuzo answered, spreading his arms. He makes sense, you know, why the great pirate era has gone on so long. Do you know why? Because the Marines is an organization benefit? I don't get it, Chopper admitted with a stage whisper. Why would the Marines want to keep the great pirate era alive? Every Marine seems hell-bent on killing us. And yet, the increase in pirates and the danger they pose has driven countries that didn't trust the world government before into their arms, bringing the Marines members and funding unlike anything they've seen before. Not to mention the surge of devil fruits that they've taken from pirates, increasing their own strength. Preposterous, Momonga yelled. You used to be such a good Marine. What has deluded you into such a belief? Shuzo, Fleet Admiral Sakazuki is almost rabid with his devotion to the end of the great pirate era.
But he hasn't gone far enough. Even that mad dog has a leash keeping him from doing what needs to be done. That's why we will. Master Z's plan will destroy the One Piece and all of the emperors in one fell swoop, ridding the world of that which feeds the horrid cycle of piracy and revenge. Without the dream of the One Piece or becoming Pirate King, no new pirates will rise and the real purge can begin. The world will be free after more than 20 long years.
Master Z, the Marine gasped. Sir, you shouldn't have said that, Brannigan muttered, Shuzo's eyes widening. Oh, I suppose I shouldn't have, he blinked. Bararara. Well, it doesn't matter. Everyone here is going to a watery grave anyway. You won't hurt my friends or my father anymore, Lily yelled, the mini giant growing to her full size, fork in hand. Her appearance caught both Shuzo and Momonga by surprise, allowing the girl the time she needed to stab at Shuzo's submarine. The fork skid over its hard shell, forcing the Neo-Marine and his lackeys to jump to the surrounding waters lest they be swept away by force. Luckily for them, said waters were full of another 100 submarines containing other Neo-Marines, some of which surfaced as platforms for them. The rest opened their doors, their pilots stepping out with guns cocked. Well, this is inconvenient, Robin commented. Understatement of the goddamn century, Zoro groused. I guess this is the part where we improvise, Grace said, pulling paints from her bag and swirling them into a ball between her hands. She compressed her creation, forcing it into the space of a small marble before throwing it directly upward. It exploded into a firework. Across the way, the D-team and the Marines chasing them noticed the colorful spectacle. Damn, Coby hissed. That looks like Grace's powers. I guess trouble found us and we're moving into our backup plan. Your orders, Captain? Take us in, Luffy yelled, his body shaking as a battle smile stretched over his face. Let's save everyone and get the giant cook guy. Super. Frankie grinned. Time to show off some modifications Sunny, Mary, and I worked up, 'cause this bug's got wings now. He pulled a lever, the buzzing under the ladybug's wings growing louder. The sides lifted up, the paddles extending to either side behind them. The speed lever's groove extended, almost doubling its range. The cyborg shoved it upward, their craft giving a jolt as physics caught up with the change. Rising out of the water somewhat because of airflow, the ladybug began skimming over the wave, a mist of seawater marking their trail as droplets were sucked into the back of their slipstream. Yo-ho-ho! Brooke laughed as the marine ships behind them vanished from sight due to the mist. What a feat of engineering, Frankie. We got the idea from you, the machine man said. Mary wanted to recreate how you could run on water, but she doesn't have the right shape for it and has moonwalk anyway. But Sunny figured out how you managed it and used my know-how to make some rough schematics. We finished putting this together on Fishman Island with Den's help but didn't get to use it. Well, it's getting a workout now, Jin commented. He felt a hand on his shoulder. Luffy leaping forward over Frankie and Coby to balance on the boat's bow, grabbing one of the decorative antennae as a handhold.
This is awesome, the captain grinned as he leaned forward against the wind. Frankie banked the ladybug so the raft was directly ahead in their path before punching it, their forward speed building. The quintet took in the situation, studying the unexpected field. Looks like we've been ambushed. Coby yelled over the thrum of the wings, his superior eyesight seeing everything more clearly than the rest of the group. From what I can see, the Marines are just as surprised at whoever these guys are showing up. Nami's still hidden, Luffy muttered, feeling her spirit in his observation away from the battle and not under threat of any submarines still underwater. The layout locked in his mind, Luffy leapt, enlarging his hand. Third gear, Gum giant pistol.
What? Shuzo blinked. Jumping from the submarine he stood onto the raft. The sub's pilot shut the door, the force of the fist driving the craft back underwater. Luffy's fist retracted, the pirate captain flipping onto the raft where he could stare down both the Marine and the Neo-Marine. Alright, Luffy began, popping his knuckles. Who the hell are you guys and whose ass do I need to kick? And you are, Shuzo blinked. Straw Hat, Momonga grunted. I knew you'd show up eventually. Greetings, Captain, Robin said. Allow me the honor of introducing you to Vice Admiral Momonga of the Marines as well as Shuzo of the Neo-Marines. And, Luffy questioned. The long arm wants Pan's Fry dead, Mary offered. We and the Marines want him alive. Luffy turned an eye on the Vice Admiral, the man feeling his gaze and answering in kind. The two sized each other up with their observation. We will fight afterward over the fate of Pan's Fry, Straw Hat, Momonga stated. Currently, however, our interests align with his continued survival.
Not only are you too spineless to do your job, Shuzo scowled, but now you're actively teaming up with a notorious pirate to protect the life of another wanted man. He spread his arms, raising his voice to the rest of the Marines around them as the ships that had been chasing the ladybug came into range. Look at this, Marines. Look at how far your leaders have fallen. He forms alliances with criminals to fight good people like me who have been ridding these waters of whatever dangerous pirates scrape their way over. I and the Neo-Marines are doing more to end this era than your Vice Admiral here.
Do not twist this situation to fit your narrative, Momonga said, stepping forward to point his sword at the long arm. You are advocating for cold-blooded murder. We cannot condone such actions. He is a pirate. My dad is a cook, you jerk. Lily, still in her giant size, swung her fork like a club, forcing Shuzo to cross his arms and cover them in hockey. Even so, the momentum was enough to send him flying out over the water. He flipped, kicking the air with moonwalk to right himself. And as his daughter, you're a pirate like him, the airborne man yelled. Men, fire on the pirates and sympathizers. The men standing on the submarines aimed their weapons, most readying themselves to shoot Lily as she presented the largest threat, but a number also aimed for Pans, the Straw Hats, and the Vice Admiral. With an echoing cacophony of gunshots, a hail of bullets came in from all sides. "Lily, shrink," Usopp cried. "Gum Gum Balloon," Luffy announced, sucking in air to enlarge himself as he all but covered his crewmates under his stretchy bulk. As history had proved before, the projectiles had no effect on the rubber man. They were repelled, shooting back the way they'd come. Zoro, however, avoided the defense offered by his captain and instead opted to set himself between Pans and the majority of Neo Marines aiming for him. His observation flaring, Zoro's swords moved as if with their own minds, cutting and deflecting bullets with pinpoint precision.
Vice Admiral Momonga moved to defend himself as well, the black sheen of haki coating his arms and sword as he did like Zoro and neutralized his attack as bullets, those that his swordplay missed crunching against his haki-coated arms harmlessly.
"Did you think that would faze anyone here?" the Marine questioned, turning to lock eyes with Shuzo as Luffy deflated. "We are honest Marines who stand unwavering against your ilk. You are outmatched age." A trio of late gunshots cracked, cutting off the man's words. He looked down slowly, the front of his pinstripe suit now sporting a growing spot of red. He turned, flinching, to look at his ship where some of his own men had not only fired on him, but shot him in the back and torn 3 bullet holes through his lower torso. "What?" he gasped, blood leaking from the corners of his mouth.
"I'm sorry, Vice Admiral," the apparent speaker for the turncoats announced, pulling his Marine ascot and hat off before tossing them to the wind. His fellow traitors followed his lead. "I can't side with pirates in any way. I refuse. Clearly, this Shuzo guy has a point. The Marines have failed. Or you have, at least, Vice Admiral."
"How dare you fire on our commander?" a voice from farther on the deck demanded. "How dare you side with the pirates?" another responded. "If this is what you stand for, then I belong in the Neo Marines."
In the span of a minute, the decks of the Marine battleships were embroiled in a full-scale mutiny, half of the crews refusing to side with or step aside in defense of their prisoner. The other half held firm to their beliefs in the Marines, processes, orders, and command structure, rising with hesitant but solidifying will to deal with the traitors. All this, however, did not help Momonga as he fell to one knee, coughing blood onto the wood of the giant raft. His sword's blade dug into the wood, supporting some of his weight as he glared at the man who had caused all of this.
"Bararara," Shuzo laughed. "Now that made all these months out here away from the fleet worth every second. Looks like we've got new recruits, boys." "You won't get away with this, Shuzo," the Marine coughed. "But don't you see, Momonga? I already have." "I'm afraid you've made one slight miscalculation," Robin said, turning the man's eyes on her. The archaeologist had her arms crossed, ready to act at a moment's notice. "It would behoove you in the future to maintain a more accurate perception of your surroundings." "What are you getting at? Do it, Dad," Lily cheered, the massive, moving form of Pan's Fry now catching Shuzo's attention. The giant was back on his feet, his eyes locked on Shuzo. "I need to pay you back for that explosion," the massive man said, bending his knees. He jumped, the downward force of the raft causing a huge wave of displaced water to surge outward. Pans rose higher than any of the pirates, Marines, or Neo Marines thought he could from such a position, the man curling up as he reached the apex of his parabolic arc, cannonball. "Crazy bastard," Shuzo screamed, moonwalking his way through the air as he desperately tried to escape the impact point or what would be the resulting splash zone. The giant hitting the water caused the sort of ruckus one would expect from such a thing, the raft and ships being tossed about on the sudden waves. Me, Alpacachino, gaining some height with moonwalk, Shuzo's discerning eyes and observation managed to catch the tail end of his best friend sinking below the surface of the water, the ocean forcing Alpacachino into his base form as a bazooka. He dove, hoping to catch up in time. The pirates held onto the raft for dear life as the craft bucked, water sloshing over the sides. Off to the side, a plume of swirling water shot up from the sea. Another similar plume, these cylinders dwarfing even the Navy battleships in size, rose on the other side, quickly being followed by more.
"What the hell is that?" Kaku asked, launching a tempest kick toward the Neo Marines. "It don't look like any current I've ever seen."
"Nami?" Usopp yelled into his snail. "I hope you've got an answer and a solution for us." "It's called the thrust upstream," Nami's voice answered from the invertebrate. "It's like a lesser form of the knock upstream, but more unpredictable and capable of throwing ships miles up into the air. If they aren't destroyed outright, that is." "Not the sort of answer we were hoping for," Mary commended from the Marines orbiting around her as she hovered over her crewmates, and Kaku and Lily, by standing on one. One of the thrust upstreams grew under a battleship, the hull of the expensive ship splintering as the force of the water ripped it apart. The screams of Marines, both still loyal and otherwise, were washed away with the lives of the unlucky. Despite this scene, Neo Marines were beginning to swarm up the sides of the remaining ships to aid the turncoats. "Holy shit!" Frankie cursed over Usopp's panicked screaming. "That thing is super powerful." "Usopp!" Nami yelled, Get Pan's fry back to the Sunny, we need to leave now. Right. Usopp steadied himself, new determination welling in his gut as he made his way to the edge of the raft. Each thrust upstream made a new wave, but such currents surely wouldn't be a problem for a giant. Pans, we're getting out of here, I'll direct you. Momonga looked on with weakening confidence as a wave from a collapsing stream approached his side of the raft, the bleeding vice admiral unable to do more with his injuries than ready an iron body and his haki and hope for the best. Even so, the shock of betrayal caused his manifested will to be patchy and inconsistent. Pterodactyl swarm. The pink-haired form of Coby in his slasher mode appeared before the marine, his swords cutting through the air. Slashes splashed against the water, carving gashes that filled quickly from the sheer volume. With that a failed plan, Coby shifted into his armor mode and turned his back to the water. The wave crashed into him, breaking against his bone plating. The zone grit his teeth, his feet and swords digging into the raft. The wave flowed around them, Momonga staring at Coby in shock. Thank God waves count as moving water, Coby grunted to himself, his transformation shrinking into his human mode. He was soaked, the last of the water having fallen over him. You protected me, the marine blinked, wincing as the breath required aggravated his wounds. Why?
Because you needed help, Vice Admiral, the zone answered, trying to shake the water off like a dog. The young man panted, fighting the slight energy drain he didn't want the marine to see.
But I was there at Marineford. Momonga coughed, more blood forcing its way past his lips. I tried to ensure your execution. And here you were betrayed. Despite all reasons for why I should have let you die, I just couldn't allow that. I will be a hero to the world even as a pirate. And a hero would not allow another person to die if they can do something about it.
As Coby spoke, Chopper rushed over and grew into his heavy point. Momonga's eyes widened slightly as the hybrid reindeer forced him onto his back. Chopper muttered to himself as he drew medical equipment from his bag, Coby distinctly hearing, "Not sterile, but it will have to do," from the doctor.
The monster doctor? Momonga winced, the doctor's hoof touching a raw nerve. Shut up and don't move, Chopper ordered. The bullets passed all the way through you, so we don't need to surgically remove them, but this has the adverse effect of doubling your rate of blood loss. Based on their trajectories, most likely the projectiles passed through your stomach and intestines. While not good, they missed your more vital organs. We need to close the bullet holes and cauterize them for good measure. For best recovery, you need to be off duty for 2 weeks at minimum, 3 for best results. The marine laid there, stunned, as the doctor set to work. Coby pitied him, having to be awake through his surgery after what just happened, something the zone could not claim while he'd been in the care of the surgeon of death after the war. You bastards have a lot to answer for, Sanji raged, the fires of his passion burning around him. Attacking Lily Chan, Robin Schwan, Amy Dearest, and Grace is a crime punishable by loss of manhood. He disappeared only to show up again with a burning foot already planted in the gut of one of the Neo-Marine gunmen. He hacked, eyes wide and spittle flying, as the cook launched him into the ocean before moving on to his next foe. The rest of the crew were not idle, launching their own attacks at the Neo-Marines and turncoats at their leisure. You know, Grace commented, her special paints shaped into arrows she fired at her targets. Well, victims really, for beating your enemies unconscious was one thing but leaving them emotionally broken was another. I'm not sure if I'm relieved or disappointed that Sanji just said my name without an additional title. Well, I had to have a talk with him after we reunited, Amy admitted, blocking a hail of bullets with her umbrella. I mean, he couldn't come up with anything good anyway when I caught him muttering ideas to himself. That makes sense. Thanks, big sis. I noticed you still have a title.
Threats only work so well. Brooke, Frankie, and Mary laughed at the deadpan response, the majority of the Straw Hats slowly forming a circle. Only Nami, Zoro, Jin, and Usopp were absent, the former still monitoring things from afar while the latter joined Pan's Fry in directing the swimming giant toward the Sunny. A ways away, Shuzo broke the surface of the ocean with a gasp, the man hauling the weapon he'd dove in for over to his main submarine. Tossing the bazooka up, he crawled aboard and panted.
Alpacachino, he cried, cradling the zone in his arms. Speak to me, Alpacachino.
This is your own fault, a voice grunted, the long arm turning to see Zoro and Jin standing on his craft. The former had Wado Ikimonji resting against his shoulder while the latter spread his hockey-covered lightning wings, Tonfa at the ready.
Why do pirates have to take everything from me and Terabang? The Neo-Marine demanded, jumping to his feet and hoisting Alpacachino onto his shoulder. He pulled the trigger, firing a rocket at the pair. Zoro stepped forward, easily slicing the projectile in half. Shuzo scowled as it blew up nothing but water. I knew it wouldn't be that easy. If and ya walk away now, we'll let ya go, Jin said. If and ya stay, your fate'll be sealed. The only fate I'll accept is the one where Master Z wipes every new world pirate from the living world. Shuzo shot forward, haki growing across his arms and weapon. Zoro shot forward to meet him, drawing Shisui and Kitetsu to help catch the bazooka being wielded like a club. Jin flew over him, bringing his tonfa down on the radical. Heavens fall. Not to be taken out by such a simple move, Shuzo spun, his double-jointed arms circling him like a rain. They beat against the electrified tonfa, hockey grinding against lightning, until a lucky hit by the base state Alpacagino threw Jin away with a strike to the cheek. The hockey affected him just long enough for his wings to destabilize with a thundercrack, the monk having to reform them as he flipped, landing lightly by the sub's periscope. "I'm getting real tired of you pesky pirates," Shuzo said. "Can't say we're fond of you either, pal," Zoro grunted. 1060 caliber Phoenix. Shuzo's eyes narrowed as the blades of air rushed toward him, the long arm swinging his own double-jointed arms like nunchucks. His hands not but black blurs as his hockey formed to defend him from harm. Zoro's attacks bounced off his arms, even as the swordsman kept throwing more to fill the space between them. With Shuzo between them and the Neo Marines back to him, Jin flashed forward, his tonfa two golden blurs as he appeared with the crack of a sonic boom. Astrape's arc. Shuzo spun on his heel, one arm swinging up to wrap around both of Jin's. The Logia's eyes widened as their foe continued his spin, sweeping the pirate's feet out from under him. His powers cut off. Jin had no way to stop him as Shuzo twisted, slamming Jin into the metal of the submarine hard enough to dent it. "Damn," he cursed, the world a blur and his head ringing as the color green passed over him, the man guessing that was Zoro hopping over to charge Shuzo again. "I hate opponents that can use hockey. Based on his movements, I suspect he possesses the male," Rum commented. "Now ya frickin' tell me," Jin groaned, getting to his feet as his vision slowly cleared. "How'd I get through all that if ya ain't helpin', Rum?"
If you were to, say, offer me control once more. Piss off. Zoro flipped backward, landing beside Jin with a bruise forming on the right side of his face. Shuzo had not come out of their confrontation unscathed, however, a long gash on his left side and another, smaller one over his right eye leaking blood. "You go low, I go high," Zoro suggested through Wado Ikimonji.
"Works fair me." Zoro leapt as Jin dashed forward, forcing Shuzo to split his attention. Jin's tonfa escaped over the hull of the sub, sparks flying. Above, Zoro started to spin. Combination attack. They yelled. Twisted lightning. Zoro released his side of the combo, a dragon twister forming from the force of his swing. Jin, in reaction, launched a veritable net of electricity that caught onto the airflow, twisting in on itself as he ionized the molecules. Eyes widening, Shuzo fired an explosive into the storm from Alpacagino. The counter did not react the way he'd hoped it would, the blast of air causing the lightning within to discharge. While nearly half of it dispersed into the metal hull or the surrounding ocean and another quarter disappeared into the air, the remaining quarter continued in its intended path, striking Shuzo. He grunted as the shock passed through him, his muscles seizing up. As Zoro fell, gravity reasserting itself over him, Jin shot forward to capitalize on the opening they'd made. He planted his feet just before the long arm, his tonfa coming in from either side to meet both sides of Shuzo's head. Thunderclap. Too late did Jin see Shuzo's smirk, the Neo Marine managing to duck under the strike. Jin's tonfa struck each other, bouncing away and leaving the monk wide open. Shuzo shot upward with an uppercut, his fist meeting Jin's chin. As his feet lifted off the hull, Shuzo launched himself at the logia. 3-section lariat. Jin was unable to react in time, the hockey-covered arm catching him by the neck. He struggled to breathe as the manifested will cut off his powers, his lightning wings fading. Shuzo's arm around his neck flexed, cutting off the logia's airway. His other arm rose, aiming the still unawake Alpacagino at Jin's face. "Let go of my crewmate," Zoro yelled, jumping forward. Shuzo grunted, swinging his arm holding Alpacagino to catch the pirate's blades. His second forearm secured the massive gun in place, sparks flying as metal ground against metal. "You pirates certainly are strong," Shuzo said. "I'll give you that much, but that won't be enough to save you from the Neo Marines. You two have high bounties and you can't take me, so you have no chance against Master Z or the other officers. You and the rest of your kind will cease to exist." "That ain't happenin'," Jin grunted, his hands fighting to pull Shuzo's arm away with his own hockey. "Not till Don Luffy's King." "Pirate King," Shuzo spat, his nose crinkling as he frowned. "A worthless title that has caused too much pain. Once we destroy the One Piece, its legend will be gone and morons like you and your captain will stop sailing." He ended his statement with a grunt, Zoro having cut a slash into his leg. The swordsman ducked the retaliatory strike, Kitetsu 3 singing through the air with a mist of darkness just visible around the blade. Red flew and Shuzo yelped, the Neo Marine jumping away from the pirates. Jin gasped, taking a full breath as Zoro turned his lone eye on the long arm. "Give up now," Zoro ordered, Kitetsu dripping with Shuzo's blood as he pointed it at the Neo Marine. "I've crippled you." "No you haven't," Shuzo denied. "Then what's that?" The swordsman gestured to his feet where an arm sat. Shuzo blinked, turning from the severed appendage to his new stump. He studied his wound, everything from his second elbow down on his left side missing. Hockey coated the wound after a moment, plugging up the bleeding. It's just a flesh wound. A flesh wound? Jin questioned. Your arm's off. I've had worse. Liar, the pair yelled. The bazooka shook, white fur sprouting over its metal as Alpacachino finished recovering from the nasty shock Billy had given him and the subsequent dunk in the ocean. His eyes opened, the alpaca zone letting out an angry, me, before firing point blank into the two pirates.
Zoro. Jin dubbed, placing himself between the animal weapon and the swordsman. Whatever Alpacachino spit up exploded, sending both Jin and Zoro backwards into the ocean with the logia taking the brunt of the explosion.
Fuck, Shuzo winced with no more eyes on him, the man releasing his friend so his remaining hand could hold where his other arm had been cut short. He took in the surroundings, all that remained of his missing piece of bloody smears surrounded and interlaced with soot. On the raft, a further distance away from the sub than it had been before the giant up and tried to crush him with a child's most impressive swimming maneuver. The Straw Hat Pirates were dividing themselves into their prior groups and retreating, their mission complete with the Vice Admiral incapacitated beyond any hope of stopping them and in their dead to boot. The pirate hunter moved below the water, rescuing the electric devil from the ocean. Above the water, the mutiny on the battleship still raged, screams, the clang of swords, and the crack of gunpowder carrying over their decks, but such was starting to lessen as fewer men stood with each passing moment. One more ship had been destroyed by a thrust upstream while another had, at some point, capsized, leaving only a single battleship in working order. Me? Alpacachino questioned. I will not admit that Ain was right. The long arm, the title more accurate with him only having one longer arm now, said. Still, I suppose we need to leave now if we want to recover in time to take part in Master Z's great plan. We spent too long preparing to miss it. Send up the signal, my friend. Alpacachino nodded, turning his face skyward and opening his mouth. A blue flare shot from within, exploding into a light show of blues and purples. The Neo-Marines around, those that could still move, grabbed the comrades that they could and crawled back into their submarines. Some of the turncoat Marines seemed to notice this, a number of them diving from the battleships in the hopes of joining this new faction rather than stay and face the consequences of their actions. The pair nodding to themselves and each other, Shuzo and Alpacachino ducked back into their submarine and took their leave, most of the subs they brought falling in behind them. Shuzo growled as the adrenaline began to drain from his system, the numbness of his missing arm growing to inflamed pain and an odd itching. The Straw Hat Pirates, he muttered, committing the faces of the crew to memory. Someone follow them, we're going to track them down and… A snail rang, cutting off the man's orders. He paused, one eye slowly turning toward the shaking invertebrate. Taking a breath to push his sudden annoyance down, he gestured for the comms man to answer. Shuzo, a deep voice grunted, the long arm's spine going straight as his eyes shot open. You snubbed Ain before, but you won't do that to me, am I clear? The man nearly fell out of his chair in his scramble to take the snail. He reached forward with his left hand before realizing said hand wasn't there anymore, quickly correcting himself to bring the den to his face. Master Z, what can I do for you, sir? The operation starts tomorrow. Make your way to the rendezvous ASAP. But sir, I'm pursuing some, now, Shuzo. Yes, Master Z, the snail clicked, falling asleep in his hand. Shuzo allowed a scowl to rise, the Neo-Marine turning his eyes toward where the Straw Hats were disappearing over the horizon. You better hope we never meet again, Straw Hats. Your deaths at Master Z's ambition would be more swift and merciful than if I get my hand on you. Here and, again as one mind, they nodded. How is he, Chopper? Luffy asked, the pirate captain staring up at the reindeer doctor as he hopped across the giant's face. Now that they could see Pan's Fry clearly, they noted that he had dark green hair that fell to this back in a mane and 3 pink tattoos on his face, one on his nose and another across each cheek. His head was wrapped in enough bandages to clothe an army of mummies, most of said wraps just below his horned helmet. The pirates rested amid a mass of reefs just poking out of the water, the Malventimore Sea several leagues behind them, so they didn't need to worry about the weather turning on them again. How soon till he can cook for us? He'll be fine with a few days rest, Chopper answered, shifting into his walk point to climb down the giant's front the same way a mountain goat scales down a cliff. His body temperature was getting low from being in the water for the trip, but giants are especially good at getting that back up. I'm so glad to hear that, Lily said, her shoulders slumping as she sat down. Thank Goda. You're the best, Doc. Flattery won't get you anywhere, you jerk, Chopper sing-songed. So about the food, can't you wait? Nami questioned, Ace in her arms as he rested against her shoulder. Honestly, Luffy. You can't expect an injured man to be able to cook just because you want him to. But Nami, Luffy's words were interrupted by rumblings of hunger, but the captain was not the only one from whom the sound came. The couple blinked as they turned, seeing Zoro, Jin, Coby, and Lily blushing and or rubbing the back of their heads, each having unwittingly contributed to the noise. As if in response, Ace stirred, his own stomach grumbling. Why am I not surprised? The navigator questioned with a roll of her eyes. Still, we should let Sanji do the cooking. We don't have enough food for Pans to do his famous volcano stuff. Not if we want to make it to the next island after Lily ate some. Oops, the mini giant coughed. She got her wits about her quickly, gesturing over her shoulder to another part of the small reef the pirates had found to camp. Actually, though, I managed to steal some of the Marines' food from those ships that got blown up. It seemed like a waste to let it get lost in the ocean. Huh? Pans laughed, only for his head to ache at the sound. I should have expected nothing less of my daughter. Well, I've got ingredients, a pan, and there should be a volcano around here somewhere, so I suppose I should get to work. You don't have to do that, Sanji called, rolling up his sleeves. I may be a wanted man, but I am a cook first and foremost, the giant replied, getting to his feet. Ace marveled at his height as the giant stood. You understand, I'm sure. I am capable of cooking, so I will. You know what this means? Luffy grinned, taking Ace from his wife's arms so he could set the boy on his shoulders. This is Ace's first party. Wasn't that the one on Fishman Island? Amy questioned from her spot sitting on the railing of the Sunny. But this is Ace's first party with just us. No catering, no kings or princesses or whatever, just us. Luffy knows the word catering, Grace muttered. Course he does, Mary responded. It's about food. Now hold on, Pans rumbled, studying the bags of stolen food. Lily got enough for some of the filling, but we're missing the meats. I'll look for the volcano while you all do some fishing for lobsters and mussels. Then we can party. Party? Ace blinked, a grin growing across his face as he fists grabbed hold of Luffy's hair. Party? That means food? You can't have a party without food, Luffy agreed. We'll take care of it, giant guy, leave it to us. I'll throw a super ship together for you, Frankie yelled, eyeing flotsam and metal from previous casualties of the bad-tempered sea caught on the edge of the reef. Can't leave you stranded here, can we? I'll stick around to check on your injures, Chopper added. And the rest of us and Sunny will take care of the fishing, Usopp nodded from the ship. You have my thanks, Pans nodded, taking his helmet off to give a shallow bow. No one noticed how a slip of paper caught the wind, flying off over the sea before sinking into the waves. Come on, Ace, Luffy grinned. I bet you've never seen a volcano up close before. Show me, show me. They wandered off, following Pans and Lily as they set about to locate whatever volcano caused this outcropping to rise over the waters. The spaces between above water sections were pretty wide in some places, but that was no problem for someone like Luffy. Be careful, Nami yelled after them, settling her weight on her back foot as an easy smile came despite situation. Luffy would always be Luffy, and she wouldn't have it any other way. Whoa, Luffy gasped, a piece of rock breaking under his feet. He and Ace slipped, the pair falling into the water. Almost immediately, they started to flail, unable to swim. For Goda's sake, Luffy, I just said be careful. One day later, Vice Admiral Momonga winced, the man now lying in a hospital bed on a small island in the New World. 3 snails sat on a small tray raised over his legs, one facing away. Another stared at him, making the same face as Fleet Admiral Sakazuki on the projection on the wall. The last, he knew, was sending a live image of his injured state to his bosses and peers in the meeting. So not only did Pans Fry get away, Sakazuki growled from the head of a table in headquarters, his fists clenched, but so did his daughter, the Straw Hat Pirates, and these so-called Neo-Marines. On top of that, 2 battleships were destroyed, another flipped and is in need of major repairs, and over half of the men under your command were killed, Armia, or actively mutinied? Momonga swallowed, swearing he could feel heat through the snail, and, unless his eyes were playing tricks on him, said snail was starting to steam. He rested a hand against his bandaged torso, remembering that he had omitted from whom he'd received first aid. Unfortunately, that is correct, he muttered. Shuzo made an argument suggesting that the Marines have benefited from the continuation of the Great Pirate Era and that only the Neo-Marines' ultimate plan would rid the world of pirates forever. 3 of my men shot me from behind. This worries me, Vice Admiral Suru said before the Fleet Admiral could snap again. Such rhetoric combined with charisma and an unwavering resolve could sway more of our lesser ranks if for no other reason than their displeasure at having previously been passed over for a promotion for whatever reason. We need to keep a lid on this argument and carefully select which divisions can go after this group with minimal risk. I fear there is more bad news, though it is only conjecture, Momonga stated. What could be? Vice Admiral Dalmatian began only to cut himself off. What is it? Shuzo let slip a name for his boss. He called him Master Z. Nearly every Marine on the call shivered. Suru narrowing her eyes. Her fingers clenched the papers in her hands as a visible sweat bloomed over the Marines. A spot of magma dripped down from beneath Sakazuki's hat as a vein pulsed. That can't be him, can it? Onigumo stuttered. He would never turn his fists against the Navy, he wouldn't. Zephyr-sensei, Sakazuki breathed, so the old bag of bones is turning up again. We don't have any proof. Who else could it be? Commodore Smoker interrupted, cutting off Onigumo's argument. He went rabid after that warlord was accepted. A decision I remember several of us objected to no avail. If the Navy did the same to me, I might have responded the same way. And that's why you, Smoker, will not be on this case, the fleet admiral said. But sir, like those you lead, you become too much of a wild card. You will sail for Punk Hazard to investigate those rumors while the rest of us deal with this. Clear? But, am I clear, Commodore? Crystal, sir. Good. Should we call on CE Admiral Dalmatian questioned. Zephyr Sensei might be the strongest opponent we could have considering his insider knowledge. We cannot let them know of this, Suru denied. Giving any pirate knowledge of the existence of the endpoint only courts destruction. Aside from Smoker, the rest of you sailed to Sakin and Periodo, Sakazuki decided. I will send Kizaru to Fur's Island and, with luck, stop this madness there. If not, be prepared for war. Sir, yes sir. Dismissed. The snails clicked off and went to sleep, leaving Momonga alone with his thoughts. He could do nothing in his state, the doctors of the island having come to the same conclusion for his estimated recovery time as the monster doctor had. The vice admiral would have to sit here and twiddle his thumbs while one of the strongest marines in history led a group on some plan that could destroy nearly a quarter of the world if Shuzo's boasts were anything to go by. Justice, Momonga sighed, staring up at the white ceiling. Why does it seem that the word has lost all meaning? I pray that the Marines are able to stop this, because if we cannot claim victory again, I fear there may be no future even if we survive. The marine base of Fur's Island was broken, masses of rock and rubble scattered over the earth as far as to the beach. Lava exploded from the reawakened volcano that had made the island thousands of years ago, its heat burning away whatever plant life had eked out a shot at life in the otherwise barren land. The molten rock washed over whatever wasn't outright caught on fire, ruining any chance it had of survival. One man watched this scene with a frown, his eyes hidden behind his shades which reflected the red glow of the eruption he'd caused. Short purple hair waved lightly in the seaward breeze caused by expanding hot air, the heat nothing more than a mild inconvenience. He was dressed in mostly black and gray, but his most notable feature was the arm that was the same size as the rest of his muscular body. Said appendage was completely metal from the elbow down, loops, wires, and tubes running over and through it in a masterpiece of engineered destruction. Disappointment deepened his frown as the lava overtook the corpses of the Marines that had, until that afternoon, sworn to protect the base and that which it contained with their lives. Though they had lived up to their lifelong commitment, their sacrifice had been in vain, the earth now swallowing them, leaving their bodies in the same state as their wishes. Non-existent. He considered the peace of death a cold comfort to their failure, but he'd sworn to do what needed to be done, no matter who got in his way. One of the retreating ships exploded behind him, the man turning with surprise at the sound. Debris and smoke still flew through the air from the wreckage, many of the lights aboard the once vessel crying out in shock before being silenced forever. Ho! A voice breathed, the man barely turning his eye to see a figure in yellow and white out of his peripheral. When Sakazuki said, "I'd meet you here, sensei," I didn't know if I really would. It seems that prediction was spot on. It's too bad it looks like I got here just a tad too late. Who the hell are you? The man turned to fully view the speaker. It was a woman with short, black hair and a suit vertically striped yellow and orange. A marine admiral coat flapped from their shoulders, the woman tall enough to stare him in the eye through their orange sunglasses without having to look up. They had a hard, forced smile, like someone trying too hard to relax so they can't relax. Oh, you don't recognize me, Teach? I guess a lot has changed since you left? They lifted a finger, only a twinkle giving the man any warning before a beam of light shot toward him. The man's eyes widened behind his shades before his mechanical arm moved, the black sheen of hockey coating its metal as he backhanded the attack where it exploded out over the surf. That power, the man muttered, eyeing his opponent's outfit. Borsellino? Or is it Kizaru, still? It's me, Zephyr Sensei, the Marine Admiral nodded. Well, I didn't peg you as someone to get that sort of work done. One of Kizaru's eyes twitched. It wasn't by choice, and I followed every semi-credible lead the last 2 years trying to track down that damnable Ivankov to force him to change me back. Z froze, his flesh hand rising to his mouth to try to force down a laugh. He looked away, trying to hide the fact. Even so, Kizaru's eyes still narrowed. Their own hockey picking up the rogue thoughts Z had about the Admiral's plight. One eye twitched again. Well, Teach, it's not like we really got along in the first place, so I suppose this doesn't bother me too much. Not like it would some of the others. With that, Kizaru shot forward, Z answering in kind. I always did tell you were relying on your glint powers too much. It's about time I teach you another lesson. Everything exploded. The sunlight of Alabasta shone down from above and all but reflected from the desert sands on the horizon. Clouds promising rain lazily gathered above, casting their cooling shadows over the capital city of Alubarna as they slowly darkened. Though the drought ended 2 years ago with the removal of all dance powder from the country, rain was still a commodity that could not be ignored. Vivi sat with her legs just outside the window, watching the scurrying of the capital's citizenry as they prepared for the coming storm. Jars, jugs, urns, and whatever else would hold water and was not in use already were scattered and secured to rooftops across the city, with more being added each minute that passed. The soldiers in the courtyard below turned winches and pulled levers as they cleared the pathway for the castle's waterway that led down to the artificial underground reservoir that supplied the city's wells. After the drought and everything she went through to see it ended, watching the waterway open still set her heart racing. "I thought I'd find you here," a voice said, Koza leaning against the windowsill as he, too, watched life thrive. "You always come to this window when rain is on the wind." "I can't help it," Vivi replied. "My life's mission is to see my people thrive, and here, in some small way, I can see that my actions have had meaning."
"You're the only one who calls what you did small." Koza shifted, now looking down at the blue-haired princess as a breeze sent her long hair aflutter. In the past 2 years, she had barely changed physically, but her aura as a ruler and a to-be monarch caused her to carry herself differently. Only in rare moments did she get to truly relax and just be a young woman. Moments like now. Because of what you did, every citizen of Alabasta would follow you to the underworld and throw themselves on Anubis Kolpesh if you asked them to.
"Not everyone, the vast majority, myself included." Vivi did not answer, her gaze still locked on the city. The former rebel leader frowned. "What is it, Vi? I can tell something's bothering you." The princess tried to ignore the query, but Koza was one of her elite guards and oldest friends. His counsel was one she trusted above nearly all others. If anyone would listen and give their true, honest opinion without holding back, Koza would be the one. "The reverie is coming," she admitted. "I don't know what you know about it, but it's a meeting for all of the biggest royal families of the world government's countries that happens every decade or so. Every time the reverie happens, something in the world changes. This will be the first time I'm old enough to speak during the meeting, but I'm scared, too." "You think this will be King Cobra's last one," Koza deduced, refusing to sugarcoat his words. Vivi flinched. "You're scared of what will happen when you're the one in charge." "What gave it away? Besides the fact that I've known you since we were little kids." Though he tried for a lighter tone, their topic of discussion still left a heavy weight over their shoulders. He sighed, looking out the window so he couldn't read the princess's nonverbals. "B, everyone on the guard knows the king isn't as young as he once was. He tries to hide it and joke that the gray hair is just his wisdom finally coming to the surface, but we all know. By Osiris, his being in a wheelchair is the worst kept secret this side of the red line. Everyone in the country knows, all the way down to the lowliest beggar. He's sick, isn't he?" "Yes," the princess sighed. "He is. Does he know what it is? We've contacted the best doctors around and none of us could give us anything other than stress and old age." "That doesn't make any sense, though," Koza said with a shake of his head. "He might be past his prime, but your father is only 50. There has to be some other reason." Vivi said nothing, the silence growing between them. Her fingers tensed and released as she wrestled with herself, bunching and wrinkling her dress. Koza picked up on this but did not press her. Knowing that any secrets she must be keeping would be for a good reason, he turned after a minute, taking a step away. "I'll leave you two. During our trade negotiations, we stopped by Sakura to check in with Dee's teacher," Vivi interrupted, the young woman losing her wind. Koza froze, refusing to move as she leaned against the windowsill, letting it hold her upright. "She's over 100 and knows everything when it comes to medicine in the first half of the Grand Line. We figured that, since I knew her and we'd tried everything else, there was a chance she'd know something. She found the cause, but said it was too late to do anything." When she didn't continue after a moment, Koza sat next to her. He opened his arms in offering, letting the blue net push away from the wall so she could bury her face in the crook of his neck. Tears shimmered in her eyes, her hands balling up fistfuls of his uniform. "What did she find?" he whispered. "Poison," Vivi sniffed, a tear rolling down her cheek. Her voice hitched, the woman trying to force her words through the lump in her throat. One so slow and obscure that only long-term strategists would use it. "It comes from cherry place, a chemical called double gray. When eaten, it makes the body age faster and is used in tiny doses to increase the body's rate of healing." Koza's eyes widened as puzzle pieces clicked together in his mind. They narrowed a minute later as a name passed over his tongue, burning at the very mention. "Crocodile." Vivi nodded into his shoulder, taking in great breaths. Koza could feel dampness on his skin, the cloth of his uniform starting to stick to his clavicle. We found a coded journal from the ruins of rain dinners. It was waterlogged, but the desk it was in kept it intact mostly. It detailed all his backup plans, including his agent inside the kitchens that had been poisoning my father ever since Crocodile arrived. Dad's aging at 5 times the normal rate now that there's no more double gray in his food. "What about you?" the guard questioned. "You were still here when that bastard showed up." "I missed most of it because I was gone for those 2 years. I only got a few months dosage, but Kureha thinks I'm still aging a little faster than normal. About 1.2 times faster." "But that means you're losing 1 year after every 5 you live," Koza gasped. "There must be something we can do. If not for King Cobra." Then for you at least. Vivi shook her head, her arms tugging at his clothing. It could have been countered if there was still double gray in our blood, but that isn't the case anymore. It's been too long. Our bodies have already adapted. Again, silence fell over the pair, Koza quietly wrapping the princess in his arms as she cried. He considered her words, looking ahead to what they meant for the future. If this Koreha person's estimates were correct, then the king would have aged 10 years over the past 2. As much as he didn't want to believe it, that explained how his hair had grayed so quickly and how his state had declined so rapidly to the point where he could not walk for long periods of time. Vivi pulled herself together after several minutes, wiping her tears away and sitting up away from her leg guard. Koza barely moved, leaving one comforting hand on her shoulder. Dad says he's got 4 years left at best, she said, her voice downtrodden. Koreha gave him 2.5. 3 with her best medicine. He didn't take the throne until he was 27, but at the rate things are going, I'll have to take over at 23. At the latest. I'm not ready, Ko. I'm not going to be ready. Not after I missed 2 years of preparation because of that damnable sand lizard. That's why he's been pressing you to get married? Koza breathed. He doesn't want to leave you alone? Or he wants to see grandkids? Vivi rolled her eyes at her own joke, but she was thankful it managed to raise her spirits a little. Movement caught her vision. The small head of a news coup poking up from below the window. It looked sheepish. How long have you been there? Koza hissed, his eyes narrowing. The bird, unable to speak, held up 3 feathers, causing the princess to wilt. Koza glared. You will not tell your boss what you just heard, got that? If it ends up in a paper, any paper, I will hunt down every last one of you just to be sure I turn you into hamamashi. Are we clear? The bird nodded quickly, dropping its cargo on the sill before taking wing to flee from the scary human. Koza shouted threats behind it until the coup was nothing but a speck against the clouds. He turned back to his princess in charge, only to find her staring at the paper in her hands. He could make out the emergency stamped over its top, but the timing alone was enough for him to deduce that this was no normal release. Beside him, Vivi had gone rigid, her eyes wide. What is it? Vivi did not answer, her eyes dancing over the paper over and over again, as if she could not comprehend the words presented. Her fingers shaking, she opened the paper, finding a wanted poster inside. The face thereupon looked somewhat familiar, but Koza could not place it, nor had Vivi opened the paper enough for him to see the name. Princess Vivi? What is it? What does the paper say? Slowly, his words seemed to pierce the haze of her thoughts, the young woman's lips curving from a surprised gasp to a happy smile. She blinked after a moment, her smile settling into pursed lips and focused eyes. She turned. Koza, let's get married. What in Terabang? He gasped, falling backward onto the hallway floor. Vivi followed him with her eyes, noting how his face now looked like he'd been sunburned. Vivi, that's not the sort of thing you can just say. You don't want to? That's not what I said. I'm not hearing a no. What in the great duets brought this on? He deflected. You were complaining about your dad pressing you to get married sooner rather than later just 2 weeks ago. What's in that paper? She bit her lip, as if suddenly realizing her reaction might have been a bit over the top. With this realization came a neon blush that spread over the princess's face. Unable to look Koza in the eye, she handed over the news. Here. It's about the Straw Hats. He blinked, scanning the first few lines. Escaped from Sabandi, Trihorn, Coby, Monkey D. Ace. Why does that sound familiar? Luffy's brother Ace died at the Marineford War 2 years ago, Vivi explained, thankful that the topic diminished her scarlet blush. We met him here briefly when we first sailed into Nanohana. This, however, she pulled out the poster, Koza now able to see that the picture was of a young boy. Is apparently Luffy and Nami's kid. Seeing it, I don't know. I didn't know that they were ready for that, much less planning for such a thing. Okay, but what does that have to do with you asking me to marry you? Lapse in judgment? She tried. Koza blinked slowly. Okay, fine. It's just, they're pirates in the second half of the Grand Line with a kid. And I'm sitting here fretting about ruling a kingdom I've been trained to rule since I could talk. My worries just seem so small for a moment. Koza muttered. And this has nothing to do with a friend of yours suddenly having a child? No sudden spark of a maternal instinct? Well, I mean, Vivi shifted, her blush growing. Her hands bunched up her dress fabric again, this time much faster than before. You know, this really ruins my plans. What? Vivi blinked, turning her eyes to where Koza was digging in one of his pockets. I mean, I had this whole thing planned out with the Sand Clan and the Supersonic Duck Squadron. I got your father's blessing and everything so I could ask you at the festival of Sed a week from now. He pulled out a small box wrapped in Sandoran catfish leather colored a light blue. Upon opening said box, the fading light caught a shimmering pearl, something incredibly rare for the desert, set on a simple band of gold. Nefertari Vivi, I know I'm just a commoner and a guard, but you're my best friend and always have been. You're my cohort, co-conspirator, and companion. Wherever you go, I will follow without question until the end of my days. Would ever boss o' mine to fight? When? You. Me. Throne room. Now. She grabbed his arm, dragging the man away. Wait, I wasn't done. We are about to have a long talk with my father. About what? Vivi turned slightly, a nervous sweat breaking out over Koza's skin at the look in her eye. Sleeping arrangements. A shiver rolled down his spine, but he wasn't sure if that was a good sign or a bad one. The sky and the sea were a shining blue, the grass on the deck was a vibrant, healthy green, and everything else was appropriate shades of color and luster. Pink cherry blossoms fluttered on the wind as Frankie's movements rustled them from the puffy covering he'd given his spherical shoulders for just such an occasion. The rest of the crew were scattered around the ship, most eating, drinking, or talking on Sunny's lawn. The ship herself almost bounced along with the beat of Brooke's music. A haze of pesticides rolled over the ship from the stern, but an invisible force field kept the smog away from the deck. Grace, have I ever mentioned how cool your powers are? Coby asked, the two sitting next to each other on the tree bench as they partook in the small banquet Sanji had prepared at Luffy's request. He was dressed in blue, the young man having donned a long shirt with a shimmering scale design and three-quarter pants, his shirt only buttoned up to his sternum to leave the top of his chest open. Atop his head was a reverse baseball cap shaped like the head of a duck, with the hat's bill imitating the duck's. Nope, Grace responded. She wore a dress that had originally been white, but she had taken the liberty of coloring it herself, so an intricate pattern crawled its way up from the lower hem. The bottom of the dress was the blue of the ocean with little fishes, but, as one's gaze traveled up the fabric, the coloration shifted to the red of a sunset with pink clouds and, at the top, a star-filled night sky with constellations connected in whichever color fit the star pattern best. A white Stetson sat on her head, keeping her hair from blowing into her face. Bangles and other various bands decorated her sleeveless arms, jingling as she moved to brush some stray hair behind her ear. I saw how you fought against the Marines and back on Fishman Island, and your powers are so useful both in and out of battle, it's amazing. Oh stop. She gave him a light push, red dusting over her cheeks. Actually, no, keep going. Oh Goda, Jin sighed, the man leaning against the railing next to Zoro and covering his eyes. He was dressed in a tan tunic with gold and green lightning bolts interwoven into its fabric and only one sleeve, his right arm and shoulder bare. A hood with a small point was raised to protect his eyes from the sunlight and an electric blue sash wrapped around his waist. The one sleeve he did have hung down over his hand, long enough to hide both of his tonfa as well. He groaned, taking a shot of the dry sake he and the swordsman were sharing. Would th2o ya knock it off? You're giving me diabetes over here. Did you just say diabetes? Mary blinked, turning to Jin while Ace, seated on her shoulders while wearing a small version of Luffy's outfit, continued to stare at where his father was using his rubber powers to entertain him. The Klabouterman was dressed in a long-sleeved, puffy, white, crop-top sweater that fell to her stomach. She also wore a pair of khakis that reached her thighs. Jin, the word is diabetes. Accent aside, he's right, Amy cut in, the woman dressed in a button-up with a loose tie patterned with different cakes and pastries. She wore a tight, black skirt that barely reached her knees along with pointed heels, and her blonde hair was tied in a braid. Jin was trying to specifically not look at her in that getup. I've come to terms with. She gestured in the general direction of the Ross at all but cuddling with her adoptive younger sister. This, mostly, but that doesn't mean I want to see it happen. If I had my way, Grace said, this would have happened 2 years ago. You can thank Zoro for that delay. Leave me out of this, the older swordsman grunted. And we might have died if he hadn't, Coby added. Hody and his goons were strong enough even with our extra training. Thank you very much. They could have gotten past us with just numbers. Mary's eyes widened slightly, a mischievous grin growing over her lips as she extracted herself from the conversation. Carefully, she removed Ace from her shoulders and set him down before plodding her way over to where Kaku leaned against the aft wall on the other side of the ship. He wore his usual ensemble, a button-up and simple tie with slacks. She leaned next to the zone as he swirled a glass of umgumboti beer. She waited, the man lifting the cup to his lips. So Kaku, she began. When are we gonna tell Sanji you kissed his sister? The man spat out his drink, the beer spilling down the front of his shirt as he hacked and coughed. Mary's grin widened as her longtime co-worker struggled to clear his airways of the burning foam, a laugh bubbling up from her throat at his misfortune. Mary. The ex-assassin coughed. The hell are you going on about?
It took me a bit to remember since the day was so crazy, but Finwater said Sanji was the lost prince of Germa 66, Mary reminded him, keeping her voice low lest someone with a louder mouth repeat what she said. That means that Reiju and, what was his name? Yanji. Yeah, Reiju and Yanji are his siblings. The other two guys, too. Not only did she weasel instructions to the 6 powers out of you, but you said you got a kiss from her. That means you kissed Sanji's sister.
Can we just forget that ever happened? Kaku questioned, turning his face away from her. Even so, Mary could see the redness of his ears. Besides, it's not like he should care, right? He said he didn't want to be associated with him.
You weren't around for our discussion at the party, otherwise I would have outed you there, Mary chuckled. His sister is the only one in his family that he has fond memories of. If he learned what you did. Oh boy, would that be fun to watch.
I don't fit round here already even with Horn vouching for me, the man begged. I don't need the man who makes most of the food out for my blood. Please, Mary. Keep this under wraps. Fine. She rolled her eyes. You can keep your secrets as long as it doesn't come up in conversation, but I'm not swearing to keep my mouth shut. Neither is Robin. What? Kaku blinked as Mary's discerning eyes picked out a few flower petals that didn't match the sakura petals coming off the pink-dressed shipwright. Across the ship, beside Usopp as he finished spraying his various, incredibly dangerous plants with a powerful pesticide, Robin grinned. She turned to eye the party on the deck where Ace, now riding Billy who had donned a black, pointed, wide-brimmed hat with red cloud designs, led a procession. Frankie and Chopper were at the head of his following, Jen, Brooke, Luffy, and even Nami having been roped into trailing behind. For you, Nami Swan, Sanji spun onto the scene, getting on one knee and offering the navigator a fruity drink with an orange color and 3 straws. The tray also held similar drinks, one colored purple, another yellow, and a third like a rainbow. Your orange surprise, mademoiselle. Stop flirting with mommy, Uncle Eyebrow, Ace yelled, turning Billy so the boy could point at the blonde. Sanji gawked at the child for the name while Zoro and Luffy laughed. Only daddy can do that and you're not daddy. Sanji deflated, all but the arm supporting the tray going limp at the reminder.
And little Super General Monkey Chan deals a crushing blow to Captain Swirly. Frankie narrated with a dramatic flourish, said boy preening as he and his mount posed over the sullen chef. Who will fall to his cutting words next?
One of Koby's eyebrows quirked, a smile coming to his lips as he stood. He turned, offering a hand to Grace. Shall we offer Ace a foe to fight? He asked. I think Madame Magpie and I'll be a sufficient challenge, the artist responded, taking his hand. Koby shifted, taking on his Dino mode as his bow climbed on his back. Unlike before their separation, his crown now featured pointed spikes of bones. The little else had changed. He huffed, pawing the grass. Oh, Robin questioned. Interesting. Muhahaha. Grace laughed, forming claws, a crown, and a bird-like mask from the purple argon she used most frequently. She stood, balancing on Koby's back as she pointed one long claw at the boy. So, you're a little Super General Monkey-chan, huh? You think because you defeated my swirly eyebrowed minion that you have won? Do not be so naive. For I am the evil queen Madame Magpie, and I shall steal all your shinies. Muhahaha. No, Chopper and Luffy wailed dramatically as Brooke played a dramatic sting to coincide with Grace's dramatic declaration. Not the shinies. You mean lady, Ace rebuffed, pointing a tiny finger at the new villain. All the shinies belong to mommy. Even your shinies, you can't have them. Oh Ace, Nami sniffed, wiping away a proud tear as Brooke shifted to something more hopeful. I taught you so well. That's not going to get us in trouble at some point, Zoro muttered with a roll of his eye. He shrugged, knocking back his bottle again. You still believe you will win? Madame Magpie questioned, purple mist forming gaseous hands on either side of her. One stayed steady while the other jolted and twisted unnaturally. Beware my deadly tickling gas. Mawuahahaha. Cue another dramatic sting from Brooke. Tickling gas in Terabang, the hero of this story gasped, well acquainted with the dangers of tickling in all forms. Super Captain Cherrytree, protect me. Wow, beep. Super Captain Cherrytree shouted, jumping ahead of the child and striking his signature pose. You super won't get through me, beep. Foolish robot. Madame Magpie laughed. Strong you may be, but nothing can stand up against my powerful steed. Rawr, Coby whispered. Brooke played, impossibly. You can do better than that, Uncle Coby, Ace said. Sorry. Coby cleared his prehistoric vocal cords before unleashing a serious roar that echoed over the waters in all directions. He finished after a good 5 seconds, the lingering pieces of his call slowly fading. Ace stood on Billy, staring at his zoned pseudo-uncle with his mouth agape. For a moment, Coby wondered if he overdid it. That was awesome, Ace cheered, waving his little hands. So cool, but Billy can be just as cool. Show him, Billy. Wah! Though his war cry was not as echoing nor as powerful, the bird put on a light show of lightning and thunder, his bolts raising high into the sky where they dissipated into the darkening clouds above. As if triggered by such actions, little bits of powder started to float down. How cute, Robin mused to herself, watching this make-believe from above. I do worry little Ace-chan will not develop a healthy dose of fear-born caution, however. Usopp sneezed, the sound breaking the archaeologist from her thoughts. Specks of gray fell through her vision, the black-haired woman turning her eyes skyward where gray clouds had overridden the serene blue. Snow, Amy questioned, opening her parasol on reflex. The game slowed to a stop. It's way too warm for that, Zoro grunted, ignoring the phenomena in favor of another drink.
This is not just the Grand Line, but the New World, the Verdant student pointed out. I wouldn't be surprised if we encounter boiling snow at some point. It isn't snow, though, Nami said, catching a few falling motes on her palm. She rubbed it between her fingers. This is volcanic ash. It's coming this way from the west.
Look, Mommy. Nami turned from the powdery gray in her hand to her son, Ace still on Billy as he pointed to her wrist. Mommy's compass is deviated? It's doing the spinny spins. Nami and the rest of the crew close enough to see looked to the log pose as the navigator brought her hand up. Sure enough, the compass on the left side was now spinning without pause. Well, that's cool, Luffy said. Nami, what's it mean? It's magnetic deviation, Nami clarified. Whatever field that magnetic needle was locked onto is, I don't know, missing? It's like the whole island it was tracking is just gone now. I've never seen anything like it. Even Fishman Island had a traceable field 10,000 meters below the surface. For a whole island to just vanish. Do you think that means it was completely destroyed? Chopper asked, his little arms flailing in a way that made his cow-themed hoodie bounce. That's so scary. I suspect said phenomenon has some correlation to the falling ash, Robin suggested, leaning against the upper railing. On a more positive note, volcanic ash is supposed to be incredibly helpful as a soil additive, so our plants should thrive. Only you would think plants in this moment, Jin said with a shake of his head. Hey Nami, Luffy grinned. Let's go check it out.
Are you crazy, Luffy interrobang? Usopp cried, yelling down from the second floor. An island was just destroyed. That's not good news in any way, shape, or form. Besides, the log pose can't pick it up anymore. We can't get there.
Sure we can. Luffy argued, one arm coming around to rest on his wife's waist. We can because Nami's the best navigator in the world and I know that she can get us anywhere. We aren't lost and won't ever be lost because she can't get lost. Nami felt heat rise in her cheeks, warmer than the way Luffy's body pressed against her side. Mommy and Daddy are flirting, Ace observed, Nami's blush growing darker. Smells like ash and pheromones to me, Chopper agreed.
Anyway, the young mother cut in, extracting herself from Luffy's hold. If we're tracking that island down, we need to head west and follow the clouds. Come on, Ace. It's time to learn about tropospheric currents and volcanic nimbostratus.
Why can't she be lecturing a child that looks like me? Sanji cried from the grass. Understandably, the rest of the crew ignored him. Guy in the water, Sunny rumbled sometime later after the ash stopped falling, her voice echoing from within the ship. Amy shot upward at the warning, the weightless woman's gaze quickly picking out a body from among floating flotsam and jetsam in the surrounding waters. He's coming up on our port side, Amy announced. Most of the crew rushed downstairs to the soldier dock system, Sunny opening the hull as the castaway came up beside them. Mary pulled a rope from her sleeve, swinging it over her head like a lasso before throwing it to catch a protruding groove in the man's metal arm. Working as a team, the crew hauled him inside and out of the water, allowing Sunny to close her door once more. This guy is huge. Ace gasped from beside Nami as Mary and Sanji rested the unconscious man against the wall. His metal arm was almost as big as his torso, but his muscles were no joke either. Billy quacked, poking him with his bill to no response. He's even bigger in old man garb.
Bigger than Ace-chan, Robin corrected automatically, though her focus was elsewhere. She knelt beside their rescuee, one finger poking his mechanical arm. She nodded. As I suspected, his additions are constructed completely of sea prism stone. This man has or had the backing of a large-scale organization.
We should throw him back, Zoro grunted. We don't know who he is or what he's doing here, but he's clearly a fighter. His battle isn't our problem. Plus, with an arm like that, he could be a Marine. Not all Marines are bad, Coby countered. Besides, we can't just leave him to drown. What do you think, Chopper? I think who he is doesn't matter, the reindeer answered. He's injured and I'm a doctor. It's my job to heal him to the best of my ability. Go ahead, Chopper, Luffy grinned. Heal him up. If he's a friend, then he'll be a friend. And if he turns out to be an enemy, we'll beat him up, it's that simple. Considering his arm is sea prism stone, that means he doesn't have any devil fruit with a nod. I can take this time to start teaching Ace basic first aid with regards to the normal human body. Yeah, the boy agreed. I want to be able to help everybody, even you, Choppy. That doesn't make me happy or anything, Chopper sang. Robin sighed, mentally revising her plans to continue Ace's education under her own tutelage that day, deciding to craft the next lesson in poneglyphic to cover the parts of the body and make up for the lost time. Luffy and Mary moved to either side of the man, the captain being careful to avoid the super cool arm as they carried him up to Chopper's office. Ace and Chopper trailed after them, the boy punching the air while pretending to have such an arm while also treating imaginary patients. All the while, Kaku watched from the shadows, swearing to himself that the man looked familiar but unable to put a finger on why. It felt like the world was spinning, a feeling Z noted he was far too familiar with when he recognized it as returning to consciousness. The voices of whomever had showed mercy on him buzzed in his ears, sounding far away and indistinct. They cleared slowly even as the man willed himself to not move, unwilling to give up the chance to learn a little about his surroundings while those around him did not know he was listening. So bones and skin and stuff grow back better 'cause of that. Z heard what sounded like a child say. No wonder daddy's so tough, I want to be that strong. Yes Ace, but it's a slow process to get to that point, another voice lectured. Remember how you said it takes longer to build something than to break it? Yeah, living beings are the same way. If you break a bone, it can take months to heal properly and might grow back wrong if it's not in the right place. Skin and muscles are faster to heal since they're fibrous and not as rigid, but they have their own methods of strengthening. Do you remember them? Skin gets harder, the boy answered. Calluses? Calluses, the other voice corrected. And the muscles, there's just more of them, right? They get bigger, Daddy said that. Bigger and more dense. Z felt the speaker nod as a stethoscope rested on his chest. Here, listen to this. Whoa, the boy gasped. Thump thump, that's the sound of a strong heart, which is a muscle. He's in no danger now that his body heat is back up. Choppy's the bestest doctor ever, and I'm gonna be just as good.
Z chose that moment to groan lightly, mimicking a man just regaining his senses. The two above him gasped, stepping away as his regular arm shifted. The off-white of the ceiling met his vision first, a sign that they had removed his sunglasses, probably to check his eyes while he was still out cold. He shook his head and tried sitting up, his muscles and burns protesting the action.
Oh good, you're awake, one of the speakers said, the man zeroing in on a fuzzy creature atop a stool. He blinked, noting the antlers and coloration is similar to those of reindeer, though the shape was more humanoid. We don't know how long you were drifting on the ocean before we picked you up, but it had to have been some time since we aren't close to any islands. Do you have any dizziness or blurry vision? I don't think so, Z said, checking an itch on his arm. There was a needle inserted in his forearm connected to an IV. You had some symptoms of dehydration, so I gave you an infusion to help, the animal explained. Thanks, Doc. Looks like you really saved me, you must know your stuff. Compliments don't make me happy, you jerk, the reindeer wiggled. I'm Chopper, and this is my student Ace. Ace, Z muttered. Interesting name for a kid these days. Your metal arm's really cool, said Boy piped up, running around Z's bed so the man could see him. Based on his appearance, the purple-haired man would guess he was 4 or 5. He must have been born before the Summit War at that age. How can I get one? Oh this? Z questioned with a grin. He ran his normal hand over the metal. I'm afraid it's one of a kind. The eggheads that built it called it the Battle Smasher. Made completely of sea prism stone, it's got an explosive blaster set into the palm. Some Navy scientists put it together for me when a pirate attack mangled my arm, but it's heavy and takes a special process to put on and take off, so it's almost as bad as devil fruit powers in the water. I don't want a kid like you to go through something like that. Oh, Ace deflated, his dreams of having such an arm dashed. It's okay, Ace, a new, older voice commented, the boy perking up at the words. He turned, running into the arms of a slender man with a yellow shirt designed to look like a face where he was sitting on the far side of the room. He hefted the boy onto his knee. Most of us don't have cool arms like that, so you can grow up to be strong without one. Okay daddy. I'll just keep punching and punching, till my muscles get way big. You must be the captain of this ship, Z said, fighting the urge for his mind to drift to times long past. That's right, the man nodded. I'm surprised you could tell.
I've worked with a lot of youngsters your age and you could say I've got an eye for talent. You carry yourself with a confidence born from leadership and you have the intelligence to keep your family close. It's the best way to protect them. Z's voice turned sour with his last statement, but he quickly covered it up, distracting himself with how the little doctor was using a bottle of milk on a necklace as a makeshift mechanical arm as he, too, dreamed of such a thing.
I don't know what that means, but thanks, the captain gave a laugh, his son echoing. What were you doing in the ocean? Did your ship crash or something? I had a disagreement with a wayward student and things got out of hand, Z answered. I'm real lucky you all stumbled across me. It's no biggie, the captain waved off. By the way, you said the Navy made your arm, right? Yeah, they did, but I'm not a Marine anymore, he replied. I had too many disagreements with upper management and quit. Oh, well, that's good, I mean, we would have saved you either way, but I sure don't want to fight you. Why would you need to fight me? Z questioned, finally finding his shades on the bedside table. Because we're pirates. She, Z froze, his shades halfway to his face. An eyelid twitched before he could cover it with his glasses. I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you right. Pirates, Ace echoed. And my daddy's gonna be king of the pirates, gee. Out on the deck, much of the crew tensed as they noticed Coby, Zoro, Sanji, and Jin lose their relaxed postures, the latter 3 leaning next to the door that led into Chopper's office. Jin gave a silent prayer as the chef turned to his main rival. You can sense it too, huh? Yeah, the Verde responded, gripping his sword's hilts. I knew we should have thrown him back. Dodge! Jin yelled, tackling the pair a moment before the door and the surrounding wall exploded into wood chips and so much kindling, the Sunny letting out a wail of pain. Luffy bounced off the railing, cradling Ace in his arms protectively. The rest of the crew jumped to their feet as he flipped upright, setting the boy down. Chopper rushed out of the room, the man they had rescued stepping up behind so the sunlight hit him. He sneered at their captain. "Your boy said you were gonna be king of the pirates," he said. "How stupid, don't make me laugh." "It's him," Kaku whispered, former Admiral Zephyr. "What do you know?" Luffy shot back, charging him with Zoro, Sanji, and Jin hot on his heels. "What happened?" Grace gasped, as thunder boomed from within Sunny's insides, the ship occasionally grunting or moaning as an attack inside her went awry. "Metal arm guys mean," Ace yelled, stomping a foot. "He doesn't like Daddy for being a pirate." "So he's one of those kinds of guys," Mary growled, jumping up to where the hole in the wall revealed the battle within. "Guys, bring the fight out here. You're hurting Sunit'll owe something." Jin shot back only for the distraction to cost him. His eyes widened as the man's metal fist swung around, missing Sanji by a hair before nailing the logia. He coughed blood as the force launched him outside and into the main mast where he exploded into lightning. 640 caliber Phoenix, Zoro yelled, the man with the metal arm essentially catching his blades of air and crushing them within his 3C prism stone fingers. He charged forward, his palm turning a heated red as he reached for the swordsman. Smash blaster. "I don't think so." Sanji and Jin, yelling in tandem, appeared on either side of the man's mechanical hand, a leg and two tonfa catching it in their upward swings. The hand shot up with his shoulder as the fulcrum, the sea prism stone smashing into the top of the hole before an explosive shot from the palm and though the mainsail, igniting it. "Keep your mitts off, Sunny," Frankie shouted, coming in from the man's left. Frankie right hook. The purple-haired man's frown deepened a skosh, his left hand coming up to stop Frankie's cold. His shaded eyes turned on the shipwright, Frankie feeling a shiver go down his spine. "Pathetic," the man spat, raising his artificial arm. "To think how far the government has fallen if they consider weaklings like you lot to be dangerous." He paused, the corner of his vision catching something flesh-colored wrapping around his arm. His head turned, finding the captain of the ship had stretched his arms around his battle smasher and tied his own legs around the mast. Through the oddity of the situation, he also recognized the drooping of his face as the sea prism stone sapped his energy. "You will not touch my crew," he panted. "Yeah," Ace agreed. The boy now hiding behind the legs of a woman's guessed must have been his mother. "Stop being mean." Shave. Unseen disaster. Z turned, stretching the captain's arms more as his metal hand caught the prehistoric zone mid-charge. The hybrid gasped as the momentum knocked the wind from his lungs, his energy being sucked away upon contact. Z studied him. "Coby!" Grace yelled, forming daggers of solid argon. They shot forward, only to freeze as the man moved Coby into their path. "Now that's a face I recognize," Z growled, his free hand peeling Luffy off his battle smasher. "What is it they called you?" "Ah, yes. The survivor. There's been a lot of talk about you." "Good things, I hope," Coby gasped, unable to contain his sass. He winced as the hand squeezed, the boy loosening his grip on his swords. Hashokusha and Imono clattered to the deck. "Ah, guess not." "Incoming," Sunny yelled a moment too late. The ship rocked as another vessel slammed into her side, wood grinding against wood as their hulls traded paint. Two figures appeared on the deck of the larger ship, looking down on the pirates below. More dark ships surrounded them, cutting off Sunny's chances of sailing away. "Right on time," Z grinned. "Master Z," a woman yelled, she and her taller, lankier companion leaping to the grassy deck. She had black hair that fell to her shoulders and was dressed in a purple blouse and a light blue cloak, her pants ending at her thighs to show off her strong, smooth legs. In comparison, her companion was considerably more memorable. Dwarfing her at nearly 8 feet, the man was dressed like a ninja who lost a fight with a paint-wielding kindergartner. Though not a long arm, his arms still fell just past his knees, when he wasn't swinging them around, that is. "I'm Ain, Vice Admiral of the Neo Marines. You're surrounded. Struggling will only invite your deaths. Surrender now." "Oh, go to damn it." Amy cursed. As if that Shuzo guy wasn't bad enough, now there's more of them. "You know Shuzo?" The woman blinked. "Oh, I know them." On the other side of the ship rose the aforementioned long arm atop his submarine, his amputation from their last encounter bandaged. "I was ready to chase them down and repay that green-haired bastard for what he did to my arm when Master Z called me back." "So these are the Straw Hat Pirates you were complaining about?" Z grinned. "Fate truly is kind sometimes." "And fate ain't gonna be kind to you." Astrape's arc. Jin appeared in a crash of thunder, his tonfa swinging for Z's head. The leader of the Neo Marines ducked, the weapons missing him by a thin enough margin that a few sparks singed his hair. Deciding that carrying around Koby's weight wasn't useful, he aimed the young man and cracked a grin. "Smash Blaster Plus." The zone only had a second of heat against his stomach and the man's thoughts in his observation to warn him of the coming danger, but he could do nothing as an explosion blasted him from the man's palm. The front of his shirt burned away instantly, the russet tumbling through the air. Amy leapt into his path, her enhanced mass catching him as her heels carved lines in the dirt. Panting from adrenaline, she dropped to a knee and laid her unconscious crewmate down, her and many others only then seeing Koby's constant reminder of Marineford. "Damn," Shuzo commented. "Wicked scar. Not that it changes anything." "Bins," Z said. "If you would." The lanky ninja guy, now identified as Bins, nodded, raising his arms and swaying from side to side. "Moza Moza," he shouted. "Moza Moza Moza, grow grow grow."
The weird is doing something, Sanji warned. Responding to this, Brook shot toward him, soul solid out of its sheath in a moment. However fast the skeleton was, however, Bins proved to be faster. He vanished in an unannounced shave, reappearing to Brook's right. With a single gesture, vines grew from the lawn, wrapping around Brook again and again.
"Ah!" the musician screamed, wiggling and contorting to no avail. "Devil fruit," Grace gasped, pulling chemicals from her bag. "That's right," Bins nodded. "Thanks to the powers of my grow fruit, my Moza Moza dance causes plants to grow and move at my will. Then some plant killer should do you in." The chemist, thief thrust her hands forward, launching a brown ball that dispersed into fumigation. Bins jumped away, the aerosol surrounding Brook who panicked, coughing and wheezing. The vines around him browned and withered. "Don't be such a drama queen, moron. You don't have lungs."
Yo-ho. Brook would have blinked if he had eyelids. "Oh, I suppose I don't."
"My wonderful plants," Bins cried. "How dare you interrobang Moza Moza, Moza." More vines sprouted at his beckoning, rising up around all those on the deck. Only Nami, Billy carrying Ace, and Amy were able to get away while Frankie, Usopp, Robin, Chopper, Grace, and the unconscious Koby were trapped. "Oh come on," Usopp yelled, the irony of his predicament and his own method of attack not lost on him. "Return, return," Ain announced, a violet flame coming to life in her palm before she forced it into Usopp's chest. He gasped, his body glowing purple for a moment before he started to shrink. In a second, Usopp was half his original height. What did you do to me?" he squeaked. Rather than answer, Ain turned her eyes on others trapped by Bins's plants. Her first target was the only one with an immediate counter, Grace's vines already turning brown. "Return, return. Not on your life." Ain leapt back, just dodging the chocolatier that fell from the sky. Unfortunately for said chocolatier, the Neo-Marine swung her arm up as she moved, the purple haze surrounding the blonde. Amy yelped, her own body shrinking. "Big sis." Grace yelled as Amy vanished into her own clothing. "I'll get you for that." She was waylaid, however, a Fuma shuriken the same height as her torso stabbing into the deck to block her path. Bins laughed, redirecting her attention. With Grace distracted, Ain turned to the rest of the captured crew. She managed to tag Robin and Chopper first, spinning around a thrust from Brook before tagging him as well. "Super!" Frankie yelled, several vines Brook had cut for him reducing the strength of his bindings to the point where he could break free. He leapt toward Bins only for Shuzo to intercept him. Gust sword. Nami yelled of air shooting over Ain as she hit the deck. Brook was not so lucky, the wind sending him careening into a wall. Ain spun, kicking off the air in a moonwalk to lunge at the navigator. "Return. Not my mommy." Ain froze, her purple fire an inch from the determined face of a 2-year-old. Her eyes widened as she realized how close she came to wiping a child from existence. Tears streaked from Ace's eyes and his body trembled, the boy ignorant of the danger he dodged but fearful all the same. "You've hurt my family already. You meanies just need to go away." "Stay away from Donna and young master." Ain spun, her hand pressing into the stomach of the monk that tried to attack her from behind. Jin's eyes widened as he started to shrink, his robes tangling around his feet causing him to crash. "Uncle Jin!" Ace cried. "Smash Buster!" Something exploded as Sunny screamed, fire spreading over her destroyed rooms. Zoro, Sanji, Mary, and Kaku all laid against railings or walls, each clutching wounds, burns, or wrapped in vines. Mary was missing both of her legs and one of her horns had been blasted off in the explosion, her hands protecting the heart by her throat. Kaku was next to her, slumped against the wall and unresponsive. Z stood before them with the fire as a horrid backdrop, Luffy held in the grip of his claw. "Daddy, you want to be king of the pirates?" Z spat. You can't even defend your own ship. I hate to break it to you, kid, but the world isn't fair. It'll give you everything you want, rip it away in a moment, and then taunt you as a criminal gets the happiness you worked so hard for and lost. I don't care if you are Garp's grandson, you're a pirate, and every pirate lost their right to life when they raised the black flag. It's just a shame that your boy was brought into the world with such a sad lot. Hopefully whatever being is out there gives him another shot at a good life since this one never did. You, bastard, Luffy hissed, struggling in the man's grip despite the seed prism stone. Z smirked. You've still got some fight in you, Straw Hat, that's fine. He threw Luffy away, the captain rolling to a stop beside his wife, son, and the smaller Jin. Billy cowered beside them, only able to watch as Z returned to his ship. Ain and Bins leapt from their fights to land beside him while Shuzo dragged Frankie around. Alpacagino aimed at the cyborg's head and both of his massive arms restrained behind his back. I am Z, leader of the Neo Marines and the man who will kill off every damn pirate in this world. Let's see you and your crew survive this. Pirate King, Wakebreaker. Ready, Master Z. A kneeling Klabouterman materialized beside Bins, the being's head similar to an albino tiger. He wore an open black cloak with an outward-facing blade poking out over the sternum. Smoke rose from the fairy's mouth as he spoke, a feature likely related to the cannon in the mouth of the figurehead. His head rose, golden eyes staring at Mary in particular. At your command. Fire. Under the fairy's control, the larger ship fired a point-blank salvo into the Sunny's side. She screamed, several of the metal spheres finding weak points like windows or ports and ripping through her innards. Others crashed into the deck, sending up sprays of dirt and grass. One cannonball ripped through Nami's trees, leaving a wake of broken branches, busted fruit, and, in the case of 2 trees, only stumps. With the pirates unable to stop the damage now, Shuzo stabbed a finger pistol into Frankie's side and shoved him onto the deck before joining Z's inner circle on the opposite side of the wood ferry, his every faithful alpaca weapon at his side. Sonny, Mary yelled, flinching as another cannonball blew apart a piece of their ship's railing. Emergency procedure C. Get us the hell out of here. 6 painful seconds passed as 2 more salvos pelted Sunny from both sides, spectral tears rolling down her figurehead's cheeks. She growled, the rumblings in her hull slowly building into a defiant roar before, with a blast of energy, she took off in a coup de burst, disappearing in a twinkle and leaving the Neo Marines behind. Z and his greatest fighters stared where they'd gone, each of their faces set into a frown.
We need to go after them, Shuzo began. They are now no threat to us, Z interrupted. They saved my life, so we'll give them this. We have places to be and they will not survive our grand plan, anyway. Everyone, set course for Seikon Island.
Sir, yes sir. Sunny moaned in pain as she limped into the dock of a small island. There was little to see in the place, rising cliffs taking up the majority of the land space. The only note of interest was a single building, a small house set on the hillside overlooking the bay. As Sunny came to a stop, the crying ship dropping her paw anchors into the water, the largest of 3 figures stood and began making their way down toward them. As one would expect after such a defeat, spirits were drooping, though the phrase was both literal and figurative in this case. Much of the crew, having been freed of their chlorophyllic bindings, had their heads down. Luffy and Nami were on the bench, Ace between them as they sat with their foreheads together. Their little boy was crying despite the comforting embrace, and no one could blame him. Coby was still in recovery from the point-blank explosion he took, Chopper treating him while Grace had his head resting in her lap, the young woman idly creating what chemicals the doctor asked for without really thinking about it. Zoro glared into the distance from whence they'd come, his mouth set in a frown. Against what railing survived the encounter with the Neo Marines, Jin, Amy, and Usopp huddled in their oversized clothing. The 3 of them were the only ones overly affected by the powers of the return fruit, each having been reduced to a prior age. Amy suspected she was about 8 or 9, 12 to 13 years younger than her regular age. Usopp corroborated this estimation, recognizing his 7-year-old body as the same as when his mother passed away. Jin had not shrunk as much as his younger companions, the Logia now physically 15. Unlike Amy and Usopp, he could move in his clothes, but he could not wear the hood and needed to bunch up the hem. On the roof of the crow's nest, workout room, Mary sat with her arms around the ghostly vapor of Sunny's manifestation. Incomplete and still growing as she was, the most Sunny could create outside of her true body was a vaguely humanoid shape similar to the kind Mary had during the crew's stints into Skypia and Navarone. Her only feature was a mouth, said mouth twisted into a pained grimace as, like her figurehead, spectral tears dripped from where her eyes should be and down her chin. Black spots smoldered along her appearance, reflecting the wreckage and damage she'd sustained. Mary whispered calming words to her fellow fairy, trying to keep her anger at her own inability to help buried for the time being. You all are in a sorry state. Frankie was the first one to locate the speaker on the dock, a heavy-set man with a gray beard, a dark cloak, and a green parrot on his shoulder. His parrot, Frankie noted, was missing its right wing, a jagged scar replacing the joint. He stood on the dock staring up at them with a sad smile. This your dock? The shipwright asked. Sorry we came in without asking. We couldn't exactly risk going much further with Grand Line weather. It's not a problem, the man waved off. You all look like you could use some kindness. I used to be a sailor myself and there's something beautiful about folks entering the new world to chase their dreams. You all are safe from the Marines here. Thank you, Robin nodded. Nami extracted herself from Luffy's arms, the woman heading up the stairs to their room where she kept the money, a hesitance in her step. The room had not gone unscathed in the fight, but it had fared a bit better than many other rooms even with the fire having burned away a whole wall. Luffy pulled Ace deeper into his arms as she left, letting the boy's tears soak into his shirt. The captain's eyes, however, were dry, the young father staring off into the distance. Nami returned as the crew finished setting up the gangplank. Mary had come down and was trading observations with Robin on the best weaknesses of the Neo Marines that they could exploit when, not if, they ran into them again. Having released Coby into Chopper's care, Grace had scrounged up some clothing for Amy, Usopp, and Jin, though it was basic clothing in whites and tans made of access cloth they had for clothing repair. The navigator joined the rest of the crew sans Frankie on the dock, the woman handing the old man in their midst a stack of berry notes. "That should cover our docking fee," she said, sorting through the rest of the money she had. She turned to her crew. "This'll be for lodging and food, and this is for shopping. We need new clothes since all of ours burned. We can't wear only party clothes." "I'm sorry," Chopper sniffed. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on helping him, we wouldn't be in this mess and Sunny wouldn't be so hurt." "Don't sweat it," Frankie yelled from the ship, hiding a wince at the bandaged hole in his side. A tiny version of Sunny's manifestation sat on his shoulder like a child-sized parrot. "I'll have the repairs done super fast. Something like this will only slow us down for a day or two." "Alright," Sunny agreed, trying to smile through the pain. Rahaha, I'll be fine with Maker on the job." "Don't push yourself, Sunny," Mary warned. "Frankie's a master but fixing you up will still take time. I suggest you move into your sunflower until Frankie finishes the repairs." "Chopper," Zoro grunted, turning the doctor's attention to him. "This isn't your fault. That guy chose to attack us after we helped him, so we'll just have to hit him back 10 times as hard. You were just doing your job. Besides," Jin put it, "it's not like we can just let it slide. That Ain girl messed some of us up. We can't keep going like this." His voice cracked on the last word, a scarlet blush covering his face. "Long nose and I certainly can't," Amy agreed. "I refuse to go through puberty again." "I think you're cute like this, little sis," Grace chuckled. Amy's eyes narrowed at her now physically older younger sister. "I agree with Amy," Usopp stated, now having to wield his old slingshot since Kabuto was too heavy for his childish body. He pointed an accusing finger at Jin. "And some of us got off easier than others. At least you can still fight, Jin." "I'm right in middle o puberty," he countered, his voice cracking again. "You want to talk about lucky? Robin's gone back 18. Now she don't gotta be a cougar when." A slender arm sprouted from Jin's shoulder, the limb coming up under his chin in a chokehold. It did not squeeze hard enough to perform said action, but it did put pressure on his windpipe. His eyes widened, the young monk turning his gaze on the archaeologist. "Do please finish that statement," she challenged with narrowed eyes. "I have no qualms with disciplining boys who cannot stop running their mouths." Sorry, I didn't say nothing, I won't say nothing." Amy tried to hold in a giggle at the scene, but she was unsuccessful. Robin slowly released her hands, allowing the logia to breathe easier. "Indeed you won't," the archaeologist nodded. "Contrary to what you may believe, I would prefer to have my natural body over my youthful appearance. This appearance makes me feel more vulnerable." "Say, Jin?" Chopper questioned. "How's Rum?" "Actually, I can't hear I am anymore," the now teen answered. "I mean, he's gone back this weird nagging feelin' in back on my head, but after dealin' sentient version, this is nothing." The connection there between your retained memories and mental state but with a shift in your fundamental biochemistry to the point of regressing Rum's state has amazing implications in medical study. "So there was one good thing to come out of all this," Usopp said with a roll of his eyes. "We need to prioritize getting Amy Dearest and Robin Schwan back to their normal bodies," Sanji stated. He paused, whispering, "Although, if they don't get changed back, I could watch Amy Dearest bloom from this young caterpillar into the beautiful butterfly I know she'll become." Sanji, Coby sighed while Amy struggled for words. He rubbed his forehead, fighting a lingering headache Chopper attributed to his minor concussion. "You said a lot of questions off the rails, even for you." "We were fortunate," Robin said, shifting the conversation. "If our estimate of 12 years is correct, then several of our number could have been erased from existence if that confrontation had gone differently. Mary, Billy, and little Ace Chan, most notably." "Yeah, that would have been bad," Mary nodded. "It seems to have slipped your minds, but Miss Ain's powers affected me as well," Brooke said. "Oh, yeah," Grace blinked. "I suppose she did touch you. Doesn't look like much changed, though." "On the contrary, despite being dead in bones, and despite having been this way for more than 50 years, my hair now has the same luster it had when I was merely 70. "We can't tell when you dye your hair anyway," Zoro barked. "Let me guess," the old man commented. "Z and his Neo Marines did this?" "Yeah," Luffy answered. "How do you know? You all aren't the first crew to wash up here after barely escaping from those guys. It's evil what they're doing. To steal a man's dream and crush his spirit is worse than just killing him. A man's dream is his purpose in life, and to take that away, as long as people continue to chase their dreams, then any setback is just a minor inconvenience, but when they're crushed so thoroughly, it leaves one with nothing. Well, that isn't us, Luffy said. They might have beaten us this time, but we'll get them in the end. I don't care what it takes. Now that's a fire I haven't seen in a long time, the man grinned, showing off his rounded teeth. Tell you what, a lot of pirates with crushed spirits left their powerful weapons here with me. I'll give them to you once you're ready. Thanks, old man. That's not our first stop, though, Nami reminded him. We need time for Frankie to put Sunny back together and the rest of us need clothes. Where can we find such things? There's a sea train that runs past here every day or so, a woman answered, stepping up behind the old man. She looked to be in her upper 20s with brown hair, a boy aged 6 or 7 behind her legs. There's not much here, it's just me, grandfather, and my son. Now, Seacon Island has everything you need. It's even got some famous hot springs you can enjoy. The sea train runs there almost every day. Perfect, Nami grinned. Everyone, it's time for recon and recovery. Don't you mean rest and recovery? Usopp questioned. I know what I said. The island, Seacon, lived up to the hype, a sprawling metropolis stretching over most of its available land and the name Kazanensen in bold lettering placed on the island's dormant volcano, most likely naming the city below it. The dazzling lights and colors awed the pirates that went, though not all were present. Frankie stayed behind to work on Sunny's repairs and Kaku offered to help, having also been one of the original shipwrights to help build her. Mary considered staying, but her curiosity and drive for adventure won out in the end, Amy offering to wear her choker with the Klabouterman unmanifested. She would act as an ace in the hole for the recon team. Said recon team would consist of Jin, Usopp, Chopper, Grace, Robin, Nami, and Amy with Mary hidden. Billy would watch over them from above, staying out of the way. Nami and Grace were more likely to be recognized than their de-aged companions, so Grace had put together a hair dye for the two of them on the train ride over. Nami now sporting hair as dark as night whilst Grace had made herself blonde. The rest of the crew, all of whom were male, would spend time in the onsen. Jin had grumbled about them getting the better side of the deal while Sanji argued that he could go with the ladies since they still couldn't get his wanted poster right, but Nami shot him down. She didn't want anyone liable to pick a fight. The crew split as they landed, taking only a moment to absorb the scenery before Robin urged them onward, eager to have her original body back. Grace and Amy took the lead, the two sisters walking hand in hand and looking more like actual sisters than their adopted status. Robin followed them, Usopp and Jin behind her. Billy rose from the roof of the train, taking to the air. Nami knelt, bopping Ace's nose with a finger. Now you be good, okay? She told him. What do you do if Daddy gets into a fight? Go hide and don't say anything, Ace answered, acting more open than he had when boarding the train but still more reserved than since before the Neo Marines attack. He gave her a small smile. What do you do if a mean adult says you look funny or insults the crew? Cry so they feel bad. Then wait till their back is turned and take their monies. And what do we call this, sweetie? The insulting mommy tax. Good. Remember that. Do what your daddy says, unless it's something I told you not to. In that case, don't do what daddy says. That's confusing, mommy, Ace whined. I know you can handle it, she grinned, ruffling the child's hair. You're my big, strong boy, aren't you? And you want to be on this big adventure? Yeah, mommy, I do. I can do it, that's what I like to hear. She stood, giving her captain and husband a peck on the cheek. Luffy, please don't get into any fights while we're here. We'll be careful, he promised. You and Robin are in charge of gathering information. Find anything you can on Z. Roger that. She gave him one more peck before turning away to join the other group. Luffy watched her go, his eyes drifting down her frame, before he shook such thoughts away and addressed his half of the crew. Let's get going. We're off, Nami all but parroted, joining Robin and the others. The group of 3 young adults and pseudo-children followed the crowd, each straining their ears to catch wind of the local gossip in major areas. Billy flapped along above them, landing on roofs and electrical line poles so he wouldn't get too far ahead. Robin was integral to this step, ears and eyes blooming in the shadows as the group passed. What have you got? Nami asked, studying how the buildings around them slowly became more colorful and decorative as they moved into the shopping and entertainment district. There seems to be an increased marine presence, Robin answered slowly. There is a marine base on the other side of the island, but several warships arrived on the island yesterday. I smell booze, Chopper commented, sniffing the air. Grace blinked, waving her hand before her face. Based on the concentration, there must be a bar 2 streets ahead, she said. 3 streets if it's really busy. Bars are excellent locations to get info, Amy added. I think it's time we get jobs. Jin blinked, studying the group. He frowned. I'm not gonna be able to go into bar, am I? You're not allowed to drink while we're on a crusade anyway, Amy giggled. I'm sure we can find something for you, Long Nose and Chopper to do. We can't put all our eggs in the same cake. Are you ever going to use my real name? Usopp questioned. It's just habit at this point, the small blonde shrugged. Then break that habit. The rest of the group laughed at their spat, the two verbally sniping at each other until their destination came into view. The bar was bustling, 3 stories tall with the name 4 Pete's Sake stamped over its doorway. The rest of the street seemed to be tailored for the bar's patrons, clothing, cleaner, and trinket stores trying to lure in drunks. A shoe cleaning booth sat across the street, open for anyone to peddle the business if they were willing to pony up the coin for the supplies. It appears we have discovered the boys' point of entry, Robin observed. Not just them, Nami grinned, pointing out a sign pinned to the bar's wall. It read, "Dancers needed. Beautiful women apply inside." There's a boutique right there, Amy pointed out, gesturing to a clothing shop. Time to find you, Nami, and Robin some new outfits, big sis. Oh, this is gonna suck, Grace complained. This place is huge, Ace laughed, running into the baths. Ace, your towel, the boy's father yelled, chasing the toddler with his haste. Was there ever any doubt to Ace's parentage? Coby chuckled, the Rosset and the rest of the men following behind the duo as Ace tried to climb into a bath deeper than he was tall. Like father, like son, Zoro agreed. Knowing the phrase would send a cold shiver down Sanji's spine, it did. I wonder if they have milk baths, Brook muttered, tilting his skull as Luffy managed to catch his progeny only to realize his own lack of modesty. Rather than be embarrassed about it, he let out a laugh. I don't think that's a thing, Brook, Coby said, passing the rubber man an extra towel. Not here, anyway, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we find one eventually. She, Luffy chuckled. Thanks, Coby, come on, Ace, let's relax. Okay. The small crowd dispersed, each lowering themselves into either a cauldron-like pot or a public bath. The rest of the bathhouse wasn't too full, only 3 or 4 other folks present. 2 of them were on the far side in the highest bath near the ceiling and the pipe that the water streamed from. Another man in the second-level bath was turned away from them, light snores coming from his lowered head. That can't be safe, Sanji commented as he watched Brook and Luffy in their pots, the captain's arms stretching to the floor as his tongue lolled out of his mouth. He imagined that Brooks would have 2 if he had one. Ace giggled, using one of his father's arms like a jump rope. Actually, it can be quite relaxing, Brook countered. We lose all motor functions when we're totally under, but at this stage, the loss of power is almost pleasant. As long as you don't have cleithrophobia or marinthophobia, Coby put in from the showers, the Rosset keeping his back to the wall as he washed his shoulder-length hair. What's the Cleo Mary what's it, Uncle Coby? Ace questioned. They're the fears of being trapped or bound, respectively, which can include losing the ability to move, he answered with a shiver. Zoro turned his eye on his student, studying his reaction but refusing to give him something as derogatory as pity. Still, he could understand where such a thing could come from and why Coby would suddenly know so much about it. For a devil fruit user like me, I stay away from baths. You aren't the first, a deep voice commented, the man in the second pool shifting. His head rose, the tired face of the man opening his eyes to look at them. He raised a hand, lazily saluting. Yo. You, Coby gasped, scrambling backwards to press himself against the wall. Zoro reached for swords that weren't there while Luffy and Brook struggled to get out of their baths. Seeing the reactions of his surrogate family, Ace hid himself behind the pot Luffy had been using, though half of his head still stuck out as he watched the interaction. Who are you, old guy? The toddler asked from his hiding spot. That speaking from a hiding spot was counter to the point didn't connect to the boy. His mother could never find him in hide and seek even when he giggled, after all. Besides, Daddy wasn't fighting yet, so he didn't have to not talk yet. I'm sorry, Brook muttered. Do you all know him? Admiral Aokiji of Marine Headquarters, Luffy hissed. You here to fight? Admiral Interrobang, Brook gasped. Nah, he waved off. If I wanted that, I wouldn't meet you where I couldn't use my powers. Besides, I'm not an admiral anymore. Sakazuki and I had a falling out. If you aren't an admiral, Brook began, then what are you now? What a question coming from a skeleton. Aokiji shook his head. If I'm not a marine anymore, then maybe a hero of just. After the things you've done in Terabang, Coby demanded. Yeah, maybe not, but I quit the Marines after Sengoku retired and Sakazuki took his place. Justice just doesn't seem right with him at the top. And his rabid little protege strutting around didn't help matters either. Nah, I'm just Kuzan and I'm here to relax. That, Sanji blinked as Coby slowly came off the wall. That's it? Yeah, I think so. Aokiji, or as he should be known since he was no longer an admiral, Kuzan, rubbed his head. All this heat's made my head fuzzy. Maybe it's time for me to get out. He stood slowly, the pirates gawking as he was revealed. Specifically, they couldn't help noticing how his entire left arm, save for a section of the elbow, was completely scarred, the skin there a deep red. On top of that, the opposite leg ended just above his knee, the logia creating a replacement out of ice. The hell happened to you? Zoro asked, Kuzan blinking at him before noticing that they were staring at his leg. Oh, this? Let's just say that Sakazuki didn't take kindly to me contesting him for Fleet Admiral. We got too wild and I paid the price. So I'm not the only one, Coby muttered, rubbing his shoulder with a hand, but to think he'd do that to his own comrade. There's not a lot we saw eye to eye on. Kuzan stepped out of the tub, making his way to a bench where a cooled shelf offered bottles of milk. Brook and Ace perked up at the previously unnoticed aforementioned drinks. Taking one for himself, Kuzan sat on the bench and sipped his dairy. Actually, we don't see eye to eye on anything anymore. Closest we come is our respect and wariness about our old master Zephyr. That name almost sounds familiar, Brook thought aloud, one bony hand resting on his chin. It's a shame. My memory's not what it used to be. I'm afraid I've lost my brain, because I don't have one anymore. Yo-ho-ho. Skull joke. Ace cut in. Now convinced that the tall ice guy wasn't going to attack them, Ace left his hiding spot and ran over to Luffy, the young father scooping him into his arms. So that's the kid the world's been warned of, Kuzan commented. He leaned down, resting an elbow in his good knee and his chin on his fist. I trust you'll give him a better life than I let Nico Robin have. You know Auntie Robin Sensei? Kuzan gave a small smirk at the name. Yeah, she doesn't like me, but, well, bringing back everything Sakazuki went all out to destroy. I almost wish I could have seen his face when he learned about you, kid. Straw Hat, I'm sure we'll meet again. He stood, making his way to the door. Hold on, Luffy demanded. That master you mentioned, does he have a big, metal arm? Kuzan stopped. So you've met him? Yeah, he attacked us, so we've got a bone to pick with him. Then you know he's strong for his age. The man turned, appraising the will in the pirate's expressions. Like yours truly, he used to be an admiral before he quit. That was a while ago, so I don't know how much has changed, but I know how he thinks. Then what's his goal? Kuzan sighed, leaning back against the wall. He steamed as his perpetually cold body met the hot stone. The time we live in is called the Great Pirate Era, he began. The world government and the Navy like to pretend that they've got a lid on everything, but that just isn't true. As long as people dream, there will be those who decide to chase their dreams through hell or high water, no matter if the world comes after them for it. Nowadays, a lot of these dreams are focused on the One Piece, and in chasing that, a lot of pirates stomp on the dreams of others. Does that mean we have the right to stomp on their dreams in return? He paused, taking another drink of his milk. None of the pirates said anything, prompting him to continue. Z wants to answer that question. He believes that by destroying the One Piece, that with the greatest motivator of the Great Pirate Era gone, then the flow of pirates will stop. It's a crude solution with a lot of its own problems, but that's what he thinks. How does he plan to destroy the One Piece? Coby asked. No one has found it in 24 years. I don't really know his plan, but I know it's big and will cause a lot of destruction. I think he's trying to catch the One Piece up in the collateral. That's all I have. I guess that's all we're getting, Sanji sighed, running a hand through his hair. Thanks, old ice guy, Ace said, you're not too bad. For a brief momihaps, possibly, he could make up for some of the wrongs he'd contributed to. Amy giggled to herself as she watched Grace, Robin, and Nami dancing for the inebriated patrons, Grace looking distinctly uncomfortable in her revealing dancer outfit. It wasn't so much that the outfit showed skin, she'd had to play up her feminine wiles more than once during her time as a thief, but that she was not used to having so many eyes on her. In addition, her powers were proving to be a problem, the ambient alcohol in the air slowly permeating into her skin causing a buzz in her head that was getting harder to fight. Nami and Robin, however, looked much more at ease on the stage, swaying back and forth with delicate arm motions. Robin was naturally graceful, but Amy didn't even want to think about why Nami seemed so practiced in her choice of performance, the disguised navigator swaying her hips in her low-cut dress, throwing the occasional wink and blown kiss to the crowd. Amy attributed Nami's furor to Robin earning more than her at their last tally. The navigator had not taken well to being beaten in profits. Questionable some of the dancing might be, but they'd earned enough to pay for the outfits they bought 5 times over already, with more men throwing tips on the stage at their feet by the second, so it was working. Your beer, mister, Amy squeaked, playing up her cute voice for the marine she was serving. The man turned to her, a drunken blush already on his face as he accepted the drink. He blinked. You sure you're old enough to work here? Mom and Dad aren't around anymore, she muttered, hiding behind her platter. Crocodile tears shimmered in her eyes as she sniffled. Big sis, and I had to get food on the table. Sorry, the man apologized. I can tell you're a hard worker. You're doing a great job. Thank you. Amy wiped her tears away, laying it on a little thick. There sure are a lot more Marines than normal here. Does it have to do with this Z guy? How do you know that name? The Marine's drinking buddy, another Marine, sputtered. Everyone's talking about him, Amy said, skipping back a step. She tilted, bending at the waist to emphasize her youthful innocence, the heart-shaped choker around her neck swaying. Her voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper, hiding one side of her mouth with the tray. The adults say a lot of things they think us kids don't hear, especially in the bar. I heard he's 20 feet tall and made of metal. ready to blow up whole islands. He's not that big, the first Marine chuckled. He's closer to 8 feet, maybe 10, and he's only got one metal arm. Dude, shut up, his buddy hissed. We aren't supposed to talk about that. I mean, the secret got out already, the first Marine waved off. So, are you here to protect us? Amy asked. Yeah, you won't have to worry about him with his Marines around. But, is he here? What does he want? The Marine leaned in, matching her quiet tone with a grin. He's on the other side of the island right now. He and his men are aiming to take the endpoint, but we won't let him. The endpoint? Amy gasped. But that's just a myth. Nope. They're as real can be, but we'll protect. Ahem, a voice coughed from behind Amy, both Marines snapping to attention. Amy turned slowly, staring up at a tall man wearing the coat of a Marine Rear Admiral, but she couldn't put a name to the face. I'm afraid you two have had enough to drink if your lips are this loose. Sorry, sir. He looked down, Amy flinching as she hid behind the platter again, looking up at the Rear Admiral with wide, blue eyes and trembling lips. He knelt slowly, still towering over the blonde. What's a little girl like you doing working in a place like this? I'm afraid this is a place for grown-ups. Be big sis, and I couldn't find any other work, Amy lied. The orphanage kicked us out when she got into a fight. I see, the man frowned. Still, I'm afraid I can't let you go spreading that information around. I won't, I promise, that's not enough. I'm afraid I need you to come with me. He reached forward, taking Amy's small arm in his larger hand. She struggled. Stranger danger, Amy screamed, calling attention to her situation. Stranger danger. Let go of her, Grace yelled, instantly jumping off the stand to run toward the man. Robin and Nami both slowed to a stop. All attention in the bar now on the kerfuffle in the center of the room. The owner on the second level looked horrified. Get your hands off my sister. Without thinking, Grace punched him, adrenaline thrumming through her veins. Rear Admiral, several Marines called, jumping to their feet. You can't just assault a Marine Rear Admiral like that. Looks like our jig is up, Robin chuckled, crossing her arms. Cientos manos, hold. Arms bloomed across the Marines in the room, 6 growing from their leader alone. Robin hopped from the stage as Nami blew a near tornado over it, pulling all the money into her hands before joining her fellow pirates in their retreat. Those abilities, the Marine Rear Admiral realized from the floor. Those women are members of the Straw Hat Pirates, get them. Walled-off heart, Grace announced, a heart-shaped construct of crystallized argon forming before the doorway, trapping the Marines and patrons inside. We're leaving, Nami yelled to the street, Chopper and Usopp instantly leaving their jobs to join them. Jin took a few seconds longer, finishing the shoe he was polishing since he was almost done. Get over here, Jin, Amy shouted as the argon heart cracked. Billy flapped down, landing beside Nami. I'm almost done, the de-aged monk called back, wiping away a final scuff. Now, you moron. The blockade exploded, the purple crystal turning back to its natural state as a noble gas. You're under arrest, pirates, the first 2 Marines yelled, drawing their swords. Grace turned, a guitar forming in her hand. Lightning strike, horned torpedo. Jin appeared in a crack of thunder, his crackling foot blasting the first Marine away. At the same time, Mary shot from her heart around Amy's neck, clad in her default white raincoat, her horns slamming into the second Marine's chin. They did not stay to see the effects of the attacks, the group running back toward the docks. The Marines were not far behind, but they refused to shoot any guns they had lest they miss and hit a civilian. What the hell took you so long? Amy demanded from Billy's saddle, smacking the back of Jin's head. Those guys almost got me. I was doing a job, Jin huffed, firing a bolt of lightning back at their pursuers. If you're gonna do something, y'all gotta do it right and get it done. Oh yeah? I can think of a thing or two you've left undone. Would you two flirt later? Usopp yelled, stopping just long enough to fire a green star. Devil behind them. We ain't flirtin', Jin denied. But out of my business, Amy growled, not denying Usopp's accusation. This is why you're still just long nose. Well, I'm not the one that blew our cover, he sniped back. But I learned that Z's on the island, so we got what we wanted. Did you learn anything else? Chopper asked from Robin's shoulder. Yeah, the endpoints are real. The endpoints? Jin gasped. What are those? Chopper questioned. They're 1OTH, Legends Krieg wanted T, Chase in TH, Grand Line, Jin explained. Supposedly, if all 3 are destroyed, the world will end. Yeah, that, Amy said. Though it's more like the Grand Line would end, and we're standing on one. That's not good at all. Usopp cried. Luffy, Nami called with a wave, the other group relaxing on a bridge ahead of them, all clad in new comfy yet fashionable clothing. The captain turned at the sound of his wife's voice, his eyes moving past her to the crowd of Marines chasing her group. Despite that, Nami had a smile on her face. One of his own grew, the young father stepping up with Ace in his arms. Thanks, Luffy, Usopp muttered. Good to see you, Captain, Roin, Mary grinned. Don, Jin nodded. Wah, Billy quacked. It's Straw Hat, one of the Marines yelled. And he's got the air of chaos, arrest them. The air grew heavy in a second, another making it cross the threshold into oppressive. A wave of force shot from the captain, Ace watching in awe as the Marines collapsed. This was his first time seeing such, having been on the Sunny when Luffy performed the same act on Fishman Island. Only the Marine Rear Admiral stayed conscious, the man stumbling before losing his footing and falling to his knees. Luffy walked up to him, his crew arraying themselves behind him. The lone Marine looked up, fear evident in his eyes. This power, he gasped, it must be the Conqueror's spirit. Kuzan said Z's on the island. Where? Like I would tell you, the Marine tried, only for Luffy to grab him by the collar. Somehow, the knowledge that the boy he held had a considerable bounty on his own head made the young father all the scarier. That's not an answer. Where's Z hiding? He's on the other side of the island, at the sand dunes. The man relented. Our forces are attacking him as we speak. Luffy dropped him, the man letting out a grunt as he hit the stone bridge. Nami, take Ace and head back to the train. Anyone who wants, come with me. We're taking down Z. I'm with you, Zoro offered. The moss head isn't going to outdo me, Sanji muttered. I've got a bone to pick with Z, Coby said. That was when something at the top of the mountain exploded. Bits of molten rock starting to ooze from new holes in the dormant volcano. Screams sounded from within the city, turning the pirates' heads. Shit, Amy hissed, the curse sounding funny from the mouth of her childish body. Language, Nami scolded. Ace can hear you, Amy. That's the sound of the endpoint exploding. Ah, Nami amended, shit. Sorry, Captain, Coby said. Something more important than my feelings just came up. No problem, Coby, Luffy replied. Anyone else? I'm in, Mary announced. Amy took off the choker still around her neck, giving it to the fairy. Yo ho ho, I shall join as well, Brooke said, rounding out the attack group to 5. I'm gonna go rescue citizens, Coby stated. They're innocent and don't deserve to die like this. I'll come with, Grace told him, grabbing his arm before he could run off. It'll be safer if we travel in pairs. I'll take Ace, Amy, Usopp, and Chopper to the sea train, Nami decided. With their situation, they don't have a chance of outrunning or dealing with pyroclastic flow. What? Jin blinked. The ash tsunami, Mary offered in layman's terms. Ooh, Luffy, Chopper, Usopp, Jin, and Brooke nodded. We don't have time for this, Coby yelled. Come on, Grace. The Rossett grabbed her hand, swinging her up as he shifted into his Dino mode so she would land on his back. Between the leaving duo, the attack group, and the train group, only Robin, Billy, and Jin remained. They quickly teamed up, Billy taking them into the sky for a bird's eye view. Coby tromped through the streets, dodging fearful pedestrians as best he could and jumping over them when he could not. The red glow of the lava mixed with the fading light of sunset cast a pink effect over the swirling clouds above, an effect that would have been beautiful if it wasn't for the lava flowing down the volcano or the screaming people. High above, the letters spelling out Kazanensen began to melt, collapsing to the whims of gravity. Everyone get to the sea train, Grace yelled, trying to make her voice rise over the cacophony of panic. The island's going up in smoke, you need to get out to sea. A boulder wreathed in lava and fire streaked down from the sky, crashing into a building several streets ahead. The crash shook the ground, many losing their footing from the localized quake. The building fell in on itself with a groan. Aren't dinosaurs supposed to run away from meteors? Coby questioned as he corrected his course to run directly toward the devastation. Less talk, more trot, Coby, Grace said, looking up. Oh, that'll be a beautifully tragic painting. Really in Terabang, sorry, couldn't help it. Coby turned a corner, he and Grace finally seeing the rubble of the building that had fallen moments before. Fire licked up from within, smoke billowing into the sky. People continued to run by, but a woman knelt on the street, tears carving lines through the ash settling on her face. A child struggled in her hands, the little girl reaching for the building. Daddy, the little girl cried. Someone save my daddy. Grace, Coby questioned, heading straight for the building? On it. Grace breathed as she hopped off his back. She closed her eyes, reaching toward the burning building. The air warped slowly, the flames shrinking but not going out. Hurry, Coby. Right, shrinking into his armor mode, Coby stomped forward and lifted the first piece of fallen rubble. The inside of the building was almost room temperature despite the fire. At the same time, the air smelled sweet, the edges of the room turning brown. Each breath of this odor sent a wave of relaxation through the zone, but he shrugged that off. Closing his eyes, Coby let his observation pulse through the area. 3 lights appeared, 2 of them on what had been the floor above and another even higher. A single glance confirmed that the stairs were mangled beyond repair even if there was time, so the Rossett drew his swords. Hishokusha and Imono, he whispered, feeling the energy in the blades the way Zoro had taught him to. Trusting his instincts, he swung. Concrete, steel, and plaster separated from itself so finely that it took another second for the material to react. Minced, the Roof fell apart, 4 bodies falling from the floors above. For a moment, Coby had hoped he'd made a mistake with his observation, but he was sure he had not. 3 of them, a man and 2 women, were still breathing, but the last body, an older man, was not. Collecting those who could still be saved, Coby ran from the building. Grace breathed a sigh of relief as he exited the structure, the girl releasing her powers. Flames roared from an influx of oxygen, the building collapsing the rest of the way. The zone carried the 3 survivors over, setting them on the ground. "Darling," the civilian called, she and her daughter running over to the man Coby had rescued. Grace snapped thrice, once under the nose of each person, each time producing a whiff of nose-curling smell that jolted the unconscious awake. The woman and girl hugged the man who looked around with wide eyes. "You all need to get to the sea train," Coby told them. "Can you walk?" All except an old woman said yes, the younger adults helping her hobble away. Coby glanced as his crewmate as the group departed with a quick, "Thank you."
How did you do that, Grace? I converted air in the building into nitric oxide, the chemist explained. It's safe to breathe and forming it is an endothermic reaction, meaning it takes heat to make and used up some of the oxygen the fire wanted. I trusted you could take plenty of it as a zone.
Well, good job. The top of the volcano exploded in a true eruption, another half-dozen meteors falling over and into the town. The reminder pained Coby with the knowledge that they were working on borrowed time. Still, they needed to hit as many as they could before their time ran out. We need to keep moving. The next 2 buildings were a bust, the second particularly sad since it was a small home rather than an office or an apartment complex. The fourth, however, was a restaurant, the massive rock having crashed into the entrance. Coby could feel 6 lives still inside, each slowly succumbing to the heat and smoke. Lava can give off carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and hydrogen halides, Grace supplied. All of them are dangerous to humans. I can try to reverse some of the reactions, but it'll take a lot out of me and we both know how much fire loves oxygen. Get ready to do your nitric trick again. Coby are on Hishokusha and facing the volcanic bomb. Actual name, One Sword Style. Death Lion Song. The igneous rock split down the middle, opening the crushed entrance. Coby launched himself in with shave as the sweet smell and the chill from before returned. He gathered the 3 closest people, a couple in the back with someone slumped between them watching him with wide eyes. "I'll be back in a second," he promised, carrying the first 3 out of the building. Sweat dripped from Grace's brow as she strained, Coby zipping back inside to return with the other 3. Grace fell to a knee, panting, as the building all but exploded. Shaking off a headache while willing her body to produce adrenaline and endorphins, Grace reproduced her smell salt snap for each of the unconscious. "Thank you," the man who had been conscious said before he blinked. "Wait, aren't you a pirate?" "Tryhorn, Coby of the Straw Hats as your service," the young man replied offhandedly, kneeling before the awakening group. "Are you all able to run?" "My leg's broken," one answered. "I can't feel my hip," another said. "My arms broke, but my legs work," a third supplied. "Coby, we're running out of time," Grace announced, grabbing his sleeve. He turned to where she pointed, a veritable avalanche of smoke and rubble pouring down the volcano like a solid wall. "Damn it," Coby hissed, taking on his Dino mode. "All right, we need to go. Everyone get on. Grace, have you got something that can streamline this?" "I can't negate wind resistance, but I can reduce it." While they waited for the able-bodied to help the injured onto Coby's back, Grace climbed onto his neck and started waving her hands. Purple argon formed out of the air, first condensing around the tips of his horns before spreading out into something like a helmet. It didn't stop there, the crystal spreading and rising until it was a half a cone, ridges every few inches making it almost look like a drill. "This should reduce the resistance, but it'll crack if the air gets too hot. We need to move now." "We're ready," a woman said even as Grace formed 2 bars on either side of the full humans like Coby was a bad carnival ride. "Everyone hang on," the zone ordered, taking off at a gallop with bursts of speed complements of shave every 50 feet or so. The pyroclastic flow continued to thunder toward them, getting closer with each second. In the distance, it reached the first row of buildings, crushing them in an instant. "Go to protect us," an old man prayed. "You're a pirate," the young man from before stated. "You're both pirates. Why are you helping us?" "Because you needed help," Grace answered, Coby unable to through his controlled breathing. She waved a hand, fixing a crack in their windshield. "The Marines dropped the ball and the city is paying the price. But this heroic moron just can't help putting himself in danger to save people. Has been for years." "I said I was sorry about that," the Triceratops grunted. "In short, he thinks it's his purpose and someone needs to make sure he doesn't get killed doing it, so you're the lucky one in the right place at the wrong time." "Either way, thank you," the man's date told them as Coby rounded a corner. The street was a straight shot to the docks, but a building had fallen in the way. "Grace," Coby called. "If I ram that, will your shield hold up?" "It will with me here," she promised, setting her hands on the back of her construction, reinforcing her will over the atoms within. "Will you make it through?" "I have to. Zoro didn't happen to teach you how to use a sword with your mouth, did he?" "Right now, I wish he had," switching to drill mode. Grace altered her argon windshield as Koby's body changed, his horns spiraling forward to a near singular point. He shifted his path, aiming to first go through a broken window before, most likely, the walls inside the rubble. "This is gonna be rough," Grace warned as they reached the obstacle. Koby plowed through, silently praying each time he approached another wall that it would be the last. The ground rumbled underfoot as the pyroclastic flow drew closer. The sixth wall was the last one, the zone and his riders bursting into the molten glow of a detritus-lined street. The base shimmered below, the docks and train station in sight. Koby pressed himself forward, breathing hard. The wall of ash was closer than before, ready to swallow the building they just smashed through. "Run, try horn," the civilians cried. "Run!" Their street merged with another, a flash of white appearing in Koby's right peripheral. He couldn't turn to look without making the windshield ineffective, so it was lucky that Grace had something to say about it. "The hell are you guys doing?" "We're running," Zoro's voice answered. "The hell does it look like in Terabang?" "This is terrifying," Brook cried, his hands in the air and his legs a blur. "That's Straw Hat," one of the civilians gasped, pointing to the man draped over Mary's shoulder. "What happened?" Grace demanded. "Where's Luffy's hat?" "That's what you're worried about?" the civilian questioned. "His goddamned hat?" "That neo-moron Z shot him with a sea stone bullet," Mary said, using moonwalk to jump over large mounds of rubble. "He stole Captain Luffy's hat, too. I don't know the details yet since I was giving that butt muncher Wakebreaker a piece of my mind for what he did to Sunny." "That what's it is almost on us," Brooke screamed. The temperature dropped suddenly, their breaths turning white in the air as the entire wall of ash and smoke froze. Both groups gaped at the scene. "That," Grace swallowed. "That's Kuzan's power. He actually did something right for a change," Koby commented. Their moment of calm was interrupted as another volcanic bomb slammed into the block on their left. "Stopping the ash doesn't stop the volcano," Sanji yelled, the top of said volcano erupting once more. "Let's go." The conglomerated group ran, the situation so dire that even Zoro managed to run in a straight line. That might have been in part to the rest of the pirates boxing him into the center, but, spurred on by the falling rocks and lava, no one focused on the possibility of Zoro getting lost. There was a single car waiting for them at the station, the rest of their crew and 4 civilians that Jen, Robin, and Billy had found waiting by the tracks. "Hurry," Usopp insisted from the car, Nami finishing some preparations she was making with her perfect Klima tacked in the roof. Koby slid to a stop, shrinking into his human mode to free himself of his human cargo. Grace remained on his shoulders, however, but he barely noticed. Everyone piled into the train, the natives weeping, as Nami unleashed her plan. "Tornado tempo," the woman yelled, firing off an absolutely massive blast of continuous air toward the city. The recoil shot the train off like a bullet, the car barely staying on its rails as it was not designed for such speeds. Finally able to breathe, Koby collapsed into one of the seats, Grace falling next to him. Mary leaned Luffy against the wall, Chopper getting to work digging the seed prism stone out of the captain's shoulder while Ace grabbed his father's opposite hand. Other than the bullet wound and a few burns, he didn't look all that bad. Silently, Koby was glad Ace was focused on Luffy. He didn't need to see the destruction happening just across the water. The zone's scowl was mirrored by most of the rest of the crew, but no one had any words as the island itself cracked and shattered, turning into one single eruption annihilating any evidence that a thriving city had been there 2 hours prior. "Fuck," Koby cursed, punching out a window with tears streaming down his face. Ace jumped at the sound of his voice. "This isn't justice. This is madness. This is wrong." "We did what we could," Grace insisted, setting a hand on his shoulder, injecting her calming green into him. His anger was overpowering, though, the young man pushing her hand away and standing. "It wasn't enough. We did what we could, that's as good an excuse as Zeke Pain of the Great Pirate Era by destroying the whole Grand Line. Excuses and motives mean nothing for all the people without homes now. They mean nothing for all the people whose loved ones are gone. They mean shit all to the people who were still alive until 30 fucking seconds ago. Wait." Robin smacked him, cutting off Koby's tirade. He stood there, stunned. "Control yourself, Koby," the woman ordered. Tears gathered at the corners of her own eyes. "Had you remained on that island to rescue one additional person, you also would have perished and your sacrifice would have been fruitless. You can't blame yourself for the people lost," Amy said, her stare a million miles away. "Be glad you could do anything at all. I'm sure the people you did manage to save are thankful. And their families will be too when they return." The wind was lost from Koby's sails. He said nothing as Grace stepped before him, wrapping him in a hug. He sobbed, the two sinking to their knees while his tears soaked into her shoulder. Never before had she seen him in such a state. Gone was the kid who couldn't see or properly control his devil fruit like when they'd first met on Lil Garden. Gone was the proud warrior who tried to sacrifice himself so she and Jin could get away on Sabaody. Gone was the confident survivor who could sway the royalty of Fishman Island to his thinking.
Here, he was just a man racked with grief for all those innocent lights he'd seen but been unable to save. "I'm sorry," she whispered in his ear, her body pressed against his as they held each other. Sedatives flowed from her, being absorbed into his skin. In a minute, he was sleeping soundly, free from reality. Leaning him against the wall, Grace let the chemicals take her, too. Her last thoughts before sleep took her were of the pain she would inflict on the Neo-Marines for making Coby feel that way. No one was allowed to hurt her Coby. The island where the wake breaker breached was barren, devoid of life but not unfamiliar to the footsteps of humans. Z left his subordinates to clean their ship and prepare for their final voyage while the man made one last stop. Leaving them behind, he climbed the well-worn pathway between the cliffs, no colors to be seen other than the brown of the earth and the blue of the sky. From humble hometown waters, the sound of an old marine shanty reached his ears as he rounded the final obstacle. A tall man standing beside a mound littered with old swords and rifles coming into view at the end of a horizontal sea-stack formation. The man's dark green coat flapped in the wind, Z standing there as he finished the song. "And once side by side with my fallen friends, rest in her foamy waters." A heartbeat passed, the singer not turning to see the Neo-Marine. "You know, I used to really hate that song. I thought it was morbid. Still do, in fact." "Kuzan," Z said. "What are you doing here?" Rather than answer, Kuzan turned, throwing a green bottle into the air. It flipped over itself, end over end, before coming to rest in Z's good hand, perfectly chilled. He glanced at it, the familiar brand of Hareth sherry staring back. "That's still your favorite, isn't it?" Kuzan asked. "That one thing hasn't changed?" "Never was there a finer drink," Z responded with a small smile. "That used to be the only thing I'd drink. I thought it was the coolest thing because I wanted to be just like you, Master Zephyr." "What do you want, Kuzan?" Z demanded, turning his eye on the younger man. "Are you here to join the Neo-Marines?" "Afraid not," the Iceman answered. "Then don't stand in my way. Someone has to stand for the justice the Marines refuse to give." "It's going to hurt you to hear this, Master Zephyr, but you sound just like a certain pirate I've." "Don't you dare compare me to pirates," Z spat, the bottle of sherry creaking in his hand. "I hear you met him," Kuzan continued, undeterred, "but I doubt you got to talking. I think, looking past labels, you two would have gotten along if your plan didn't include mass death." The bottle of Hareth gave another creak, only Z's willpower for his favorite alcohol keeping it from shattering in his grip. He took a breath, forcing himself to squash the anger welling in his gut. "Explain. And your explanation better be a good one. From what I hear, Trihorn, Coby of the Straw Hats had as strong a faith in the Marines as you did. Only his faith was broken before he could join." "What does the survivor have to do with anything?" Z demanded, eyes narrowing. "He gave a speech on the podium at his and Firefist's executions," Kuzan replied, turning away from his old teacher to stare out over the horizon. "He talked about standing up for the justice the Marines wouldn't give. I tried to ignore it, tried to forget his words, but too much baggage came with my track record and my fight with Sakazuki brought things to a head. Maybe I'd still be in the Marines if not for his words, maybe not, but you and he both had your trust broken. And you both turned against the Marines in the end." "What was the point of this?" Z scowled. "Are you hoping I'll meet him and let him talk me off the ledge? You know I'm too damn stubborn for that." "I know, but this is a clash of ideals between the Marines, the Neo-Marines, and the pirates that have so many people talking. I thought it was only fair you learned how similar you are." The bottle shattered, glass stabbing into Z's palm. Blood and sherry mingled as it flowed down, dripping to the dirt. Z growled, glaring at Kuzan's back. The man barely reacted, only reaching into his coat to pull out a replacement. He knelt, setting it by the mound. "I don't want to fight you, Master Zephyr. I've been trying to learn where I stand for these past 2 years and I still haven't found the answer, but I do know one thing." "And what might that be, Kuzan?" Z questioned, his eyes meeting Kuzan's, both unflinching. "I don't like it when innocents are pulled into it." "Kuzan." Z rushed forward, swinging his metal arm, but Kuzan had already gone, breaking himself into 1,000 shards of ice and letting the wind carry him away. Only the second bottle of Hareth remained to show that he was ever there. Z grunted, kneeling down to pick up the gift. Despite his anger, he still felt a smile creep along his lips. "So, you finally found something you're willing to take a stand on? It's about time, Kuzan." It was raining, the downpour a reflection of their moods. Coby had awoken, hoping that the entire debacle at Kazanensen had been a bad dream, but there was no such luck. The one good thing in all of this was Sunny's repairs, the little sprite having been there on the dock to meet them alongside Frankie, Kaku, and the local family. She looked better than before, though that wasn't saying much with the burns she'd had, the wood fairy now having just a touch of color, enough to tell that she would have a mane of red hair. Now, much of the crew sat on the locals' porch, discussing the sea prism stone bullet that Chopper had pulled from Luffy's shoulder. The captain was not present, his outline sitting on a stone wall in the rain as he looked out over the churning sea. He was shirtless, such visible even at that distance, with white bandages crisscrossing his chest with his shoulder as the focus. Without his stolen hat,
The water washed over his hair and into his eyes. "I'm going to go talk to him," Nami announced, standing up with an umbrella in hand. Ace jumped up at her words, wrapping his arms around her leg. "Me too." Smiling down at her son, Nami bundled him into her arms and carried him out, her umbrella keeping the both of them dry. It was a short walk to Luffy, its length only increased by the slickness of the path. She approached slowly, trying to figure out what to say. Ace did not have such a problem. "Daddy," the little boy called. "You're being so sad. Want a hug? Hugs always make me feel better when I'm sad." Luffy turned, giving a nod with a wan smile. Nami carried their son to him, setting the child on the stone fence. Now able to move under his own power, and with Nami's umbrella keeping the rain at bay, Ace all but threw himself into his father's drenched arms. Luffy's smile grew a little more as Nami set a hand on his shoulder. "What's bothering you, Luffy?" the navigator asked. "I've never seen you this mopey before." "I don't know," the captain admitted. "I mean, I need to get my hat back cause I can't fulfill my promise to Shanks without it, but that's only part of it." He paused, still staring over the wind-whipped waves. "This is our first big battle in the new world and we're facing a guy that used to be an admiral, Nami. Am I strong enough to beat Z?" "You had to be," she responded, her arms lightly tightening around his neck, pulling his head against her chest. "You know Coby wouldn't just let us sail away while the Neo Marines are running amok. We likely couldn't escape their big plan anyway, if Amy's information was accurate." "Daddy can do it," Ace cheered. "'Cause Daddy's the strongest ever." "Well, ain't that a wholesome moment?" The family jolted at the voice, all three turning to see the tall form of Kuzan with his own umbrella. "Aokiji," Nami hissed, pulling out her perfect Klimatact. "Hi Mr. Ice Guy," Ace waved. "Yo, little monkey." The former admiral gave an easy salute. "You don't need to worry about him, Nami," Luffy commented, turning to face the man. "Why are you here, Kuzan?" "Do I need a reason to be here?" he asked. Luffy did not respond, only maintaining his stare. Kuzan sighed. "Alright. I'm here to see if you all are gonna give up and let Master Zephyr have his way." "Fat chance," the pirate captain said, "that bastard." "Language, Luffy," Nami insisted, punching the rubber man in the back of the head. "I think we have bigger things to worry about," Kuzan suggested. "Yeah," Luffy agreed. "Z has my hat and there's no way I'm letting him keep it. I gotta keep it safe so I can geef and I'm a great pirate." "That's not," Kuzan trailed off with a sigh. "So, you and your crew are sailing off to face the Neo Marines? You're all agreed on this?" "Of course we are," a voice grunted, the former Marine turning to see the rest of the Straw Hats arrayed behind him. Zoro stood at their head. Wado Ichimonji extended before him like a promise. "Where the captain leads, we will follow." "I refuse to be stuck like this," Amy offered. "I'd rather die than go through puberty again. It was bad the first time. A war is nothing in comparison." "Z thinks his justice is justified while killing innocents is collateral," Coby scowled. "I don't care what happened to him in the past, that is inexcusable. He'll answer to us. I'll paint a landscape of our victory so future generations can remember we succeeded when the government failed," Grace said, twirling a paintbrush between her fingers. "My horns are itching to crack some skulls," Mary grinned, punching her palm. "My path is chained to you, Don," Jin swore with a small bow. "Simply command and I'll conquer underworld in your name." "My second life, I have pledged to you, Captain," Brooke agreed. "I want to pay back that cat-faced Klabouterman for what he did to me," Sunny piped up from her place on Frankie's shoulder, the cyborg holding her flower heart.
"Wah," Billy quacked. "I ain't exactly got anywhere else to go right now," Kaku chuckled, scratching a cheek. "I'm kinda stuck with y'all."
"If you all are dead set on it, then I guess I'll give you this." Kuzan reached into his pocket before pulling something out and tossing it toward Nami. She caught it. "An eternal pose?" she questioned, cradling it in her hand. The name Periodo was stamped at the top. "That'll take you to the last endpoint," Kuzan said. "Wait, those are real Interrobang," Coby gasped. "But the government said, actually, of course they lied. Why am I surprised?" "Well, I'm giving you all a chance to get there, but I'll admit I don't expect you to make it out. Even if you manage to beat Master Zephyr by some miracle, you'll be surrounded on all sides by the best the Marines have to offer." "Do you really think that will scare us off?" Mary laughed. "I was being held together by bubblegum and a half-finished wish when I sailed through Agua Laguna for my crew, and we're leaps and bounds above that now. I know exactly how strong our spirits are and nothing you could say would dissuade any of us, so get out of our way so we can save the world, again." "Again?" Kaku blinked. The pirates ignored him, their captain standing from his spot upon the wall. "Everyone, prepare to set sail," he ordered. "It's time we take the fight to Z." "Not so fast, Captain," Frankie grinned. "You might have forgotten, but the locals offered us super powerful weapons left behind by all the guys whose spirits Z broke. Let Sunny prepare to cast off while the rest of us suit up for war. Can you handle that, Sunny?" "Of course, Maker." The red-tinged white silhouette saluted. She took hold of her sunflower and hopped from the cyborg's shoulder, scurrying to their ship and fading as she stepped onto the gangplank. "So cool," Luffy whispered with a grin as ropes in the rigging shifted. Sunny prepping herself. Kuzan watched silently as the Straw Hats made their way to the local's house, the rain coming to a full stop above. Maybe, he thought, the world did have a snowball's chance in hell after all. The Straw Hats had gathered their loot, each decking themselves in enough pirate-wide gear to fit a crew, and each now had some weapon that wasn't originally theirs. Even Ace had begged to be able to carry one, finally receiving permission to wield a very sharp stick the old man said had come from a crew calling themselves the Minimal Pirates. Ace swung this stick, stabbing the air in basic moves Coby and Zoro had taught him, as he led his family up Sunny's gangplank. Her Klaboutermen formed on the railing, striking a salute. "Ready to go, Captain." "Hey, wait," Luffy and Coby turned, the two having brought up the rear of the crowd. The boy from the island, Gully was his name, stood on the dock with his hands on his knees. He was panting, his wooden sword held in his hand, but he quickly sucked in a breath and looked up to them. "I want to be a hero when I grow up. Which is stronger, a Marine Admiral or the Pirate King?" "Well," Luffy began only to feel a hand on his shoulder. He glanced to the side, Koby's eyes locked on the kid. Getting the silent request, Luffy nodded, leaving the Rosset. Now alone on the gangplank, Coby lowered himself to sit. "Listen, Gully," he said, beckoning the kid forward. "Like you, my dream is to be a hero. For a long time, I believed the path to that was through the Marines, because I thought they fought for justice. Maybe some of them still do, but just because they wear the white coats doesn't make them heroes. So I should become a pirate," the kid said, prompting Coby to shake his head. "I didn't say that because most pirates are still pretty evil. The answer to your question needs something else. How do you want to change the world? Do you think you can fix the Marines? Or do you think they're too far gone? That will decide if you will become an admiral or a pirate, Gully. Either way," he paused, a grin coming to his face. "Sunny, bring me my remaining kiba." A door opened on the ship, a blade shooting from the men's quarters within. It spun through the air before landing in Koby's hand. He studied the alabastron blade that had served him well until the loss of its pair. He'd had the gold inlay of Anubis on the blade redone on Fishman Island and the scales motif for the crossguard reweighted. He'd also had the leather rewound and oiled, restoring the sword to its original condition. With a wan smile, the Rosset flipped it in his grip and held the handle out toward the boy. Gully stared at it. Similar to a GN, both sides of the blade are sharpened, making the sword useful for both stabbing and slashing. In addition, the handle is long enough for both two-handed and one-handed grips, allowing for any form of swordplay. Having been forged in Alabasta, I call it the Sabaku no Kiba. Not only that, it's got a pair out there, being fixed on Fishman Island, so you might find it someday. It's a bit big for you right now, but I'm sure you'll grow into it, Gully. Whichever path you choose, I expect you to follow it to the end, got it? When that happens, I expect to see that this sword has helped carry you to fame." "Yeah." Gully nodded, grabbing the handle with both hands, as Coby eased its sheath over the blade. Gully struggled to hold the sword above the ground, filling Coby with nostalgia for the East Blue and his time first training under Zoro. Someday, Gully would make a hero out of himself, and Coby was proud to be part of that origin story. The two parted ways, Coby onto the deck as Sunny pulled her gangplank up and Gully to the dock. The point of the Sabaku no Kiba dug into the wood as the boy waved with his other hand, silently wishing the pirates luck and good fortune as they sailed toward war. "Fleet ahead," Usopp called from the crow's nest above, his younger body clinging to the roof. A fake, purple beard hid his mouth, but it was his favorite thing out of everything he'd taken from the storage shed. "Their ships and submarines have formed a blockade around the island. I can't see their flagship though." Knowing this is the end of the road, "I'm sure Breaker has separated himself from his ship," Mary commented, dressed in a red houri over a mesh top. Two bandoliers crossed over her chest, each holding 4 loaded pistols along with her mini cannonballs. A Tonto hung from her back. He probably wants to be by his captain's side with the other lieutenants, the suck-up. "Well, we gotta get there before we do anything," Luffy said, drawing the sword he'd taken from the stash of stuff. Everything is on the line here. Don't hold back. Sunny, prep the gown cannon. We're blowing a hole through that blockade." "Aye, Captain." The figurehead's mouth ending as energy gathered in the pipe. "Cannon ready. Fire." With a lion's roar, the blinding light of the Sunny's ultimate weapon unleashed itself against the ships directly ahead. 2 were caught in the beam directly and or vaporized on the spot. A third and fourth were on the outskirts, one losing its bow while the other had its starboard side sheared away. Neo Marines yelled and bells clanged as their crews tried to slow their sinking to no avail. "Wow!" Ace yelled, the boy clinging to his mother. He was dressed in a small, blue captain's coat and a black shirt with a standard Jolly Roger alongside his inherited hat. His very sharp stick was clutched in one hand, Nami having to keep an eye on it lest he poke someone's eye out. "Sunny's so strong." "That she is, young master," Jin agreed, the de-aged monk hanging from the rigging. He had dressed himself in a butler's suit, though the image was ruined somewhat by the veritable cannon that was strapped to his back and the pistols that hung at his hips. Ain't no ship ever gonna overpower Sunny on even footing. Land ho, Usopp called, we're gonna run aground. That's the plan, Coby nodded. The young man dressed in what could be called barbarian armor. He was bare-chested with leather straps crisscrossing his torso, Hashokusha and Imono crossed across his back and a pair of revolvers on his hips. Frankie and Brooke can guard Sunny once we land. The rest of us are taking the fight to them. Perfect, Amy grinned, punching her palm. She was dressed in a child-sized dress of scaled armor along with a helmet. A pair of bazookas hung at her hips. According to Kuzan, the last endpoint is the hardest to rouse, so that should give us a little bit of leeway. You know, I'm going to miss having a little sister, Grace chuckled. She had switched out her dancer outfit for something smaller, her stomach bared between shorts and a tube top. Her shorts were all but covered by pallets of paint, tubes of the stuff forming a sash that ran over her shoulder. Bite me. Amy shot back. Sunny rumbled, giving them a moment's warning before her keel hit land. The ship shook as her momentum carried her onto the beach. Neo Marines below screaming and running from the ship's bulk that threatened to crush them. Sunny slowed to a stop, the whole thing listing slightly to port. We're here. Their flagship onto our starboard, Mary reported. I can't feel him, so Breakers separated himself like we suspected. We don't have time to stand around and talk, Luffy commented. Everyone, attack. Like water, the crew flowed over the bow, landing hard on the ground. Each pirate drew whatever gun they had taken from the stockpile before unloading their ammo into the crowd of Neo Marines with deadly aim. Kyahaha. Amy laughed, her bazooka's missiles carving a pair of trenches through the dirt before exploding. Look at the maggots run. Pardon, Don, Jin said. Shall I clean up riffraff? Zoro, Sanji, Jin, and Mary, you all are coming with me, Luffy ordered. Everyone else, make sure Z's army is in no position to help him. Right, you can do it, Daddy, Ace cheered, swinging his very sharp stick. Luffy smiled, ruffling his son's hair before the captain and the four he'd asked for by name took off. Grace turned, waves of color dancing through the air at her beck and call. Hello, Neo Morons, the artist called. It's time for you to face the music of all the people you've gotten on the wrong side of. The justice of the world has come for you, Coby agreed, growing into his slasher mode and drawing his swords. Let's see if you can handle the weight of your misdeeds. Across the distance, the quintet of pirates were driving a wedge through the army as they rushed the peak of the volcano. I can sense him now, Mary called from her spot on the far right. She peeled away from the formation. Wakebreaker's mine. I've got the girl, Zoro grunted, discarding the gun he'd been using to help clear their way. Leave planned guy me, Jin said. I guess I've got the long arm, then, Sanji breathed, smoke on his breath. Mary crested a ridge, breaking the line of sight of her crewmates. She paused, resting on the cliff as she studied her fellow Klabouterman and the battlefield he'd chosen. He stood with his arms crossed, said arms resting on the top of the blade that came from his sternum. His snow leopard head tilted, his slitted eyes turning to see the horned girl. You've come back, he purred, the words vibrating from the back of his throat. The little sheep hasn't had enough? Fat chance, fat cat, Mary replied, hopping down the ridge. She cracked her knuckles. You and your friends ran off before we could beat you last time, but you've got nowhere to run now. You really think you have a chance against me? Going Mary? Wakebreaker uncrossed his arms, stepping forward. The ground cracked under his boot. You might be the one that outed our kind, but you aren't the oldest nor the most powerful. You cannot defeat the ship of a former admiral. Says you. I'm the first ship of the one who will become the new pirate king. An admiral is nothing compared to that. Then come, ghost ship, and I'll make your epithet even more literal. Mary charged forward with shave, Wakebreaker catching her punch with a single hand. His other came up, shooting forward, but Mary caught it in kind. The two wood fairies comparing their strength. Breaker pulled, trying to drag the female fairy into the blade coming from his chest. Mary would have none of that, the girl kicking the air below. The momentum of her moonwalk rotated her until she was above the cat-headed Neo Marine. Mary kicking the air again. Her horns cracked against his skull. I hope you didn't think it would be that easy, Breaker commented, using his maintained hold on her fist to throw Mary away. She flipped, skidding to a stop. The top of Wakebreaker's furry head was covered in the shimmering darkness of armament hockey. I am the ship of Admiral Blackarm, Zephyr. Your little band of pirates cannot stand up to him, so you cannot stand up to me. You're real self-assured, ain't cha? Mary responded. That's fine. The bigger the ego, the harder you'll fall. She drew two of her pistols before charging, her arms trailing behind. Breaker's eyes narrowed, the male fairy punching the air. His fists had such force that they created sonic waves, Mary having to hop to the side as the area where she would have stepped exploded into chunks of rock. Too slow, fat cat, Mary taunted, raising her pistols as she ran past him. He turned as she pulled the triggers. one bullet pinging off his blade while the other sunk into his shoulder. He hissed. Ain Senpai always says not to play with your food. Breaker shot forward with a growl, the Klabouterman charging on all fours. The blade on his chest carved a path in the earth as he went. Mary turned as he reached her, the cat-like man pouncing with claws extended. She reacted on instinct, firing a pistol straight into his face. Breaker recoiled, his body destabilizing as he fell. This prevented his chest blade from cutting Mary in half. Not that such would have killed her outright. He rolled, narrowed eyes glaring as his foot carved a curve into the ground. He spat out the bullet that she'd planted in his forehead. I didn't care for that, he said, drawing an axe from his hip, the blade of which glowed slightly. Come here, mutton chop. I'm getting hungry. You must get all the girls with that one, Mary groused. Oh wait, you're a ship, so you have no experience with women. I'm getting real tired of your big mouth, going Mary. Can't say I'm amiable to you either, Wakebreaker. Mary reached back, pulling the tanto she'd claimed from its sheath. She held it in a reverse grip, a pistol in her other hand. Going on the attack, she jumped into a spin, her sword turning into a blur. Caravel rush. Rising storm, Breaker countered, swinging his axe up, metal ground against metal as the blades met. Mary keeping her circular momentum W-headed fairy dug his feet in, the smaller Klabouterman driving him backward. He twisted, redirecting Mary into the earth, before bringing down his free hand. Mary coughed red essence as his clawed hand landed on her back, driving her torso into the ground. He didn't plan to let her get a moment's rest, bringing his axe down while she was prone. Mary, however, would have none of that. Channeling Sanji, her leg shot up, intercepting the axe so its blade hit the earth just shy of her horns. You're certainly flexible, Breaker commented with a sneer, his free hand coming up in a block as Mary tried to kick him in the stomach. Pushing off his defense, Mary spun into a handstand before coming up with her gun aimed. She fired, planting the bullet in Breaker's side. He flinched, letting the hole heal as Klabouterman's could. You realize all I'm doing is stalling you, yes? Funny, Mary responded. I could say the same thing. You really think your captain has a chance to beat mine? When it comes to Captain Luffy, you never bet against him. Chances mean nothing for the one who will become the king of the pirates. I see, Breaker said with a frown, you're all morons. Screw off, fat cat. Mary tossed her empty gun aside and charged. The tanto spun in her grip, crashing against Breaker's axe. He grit his teeth, matching Mary move for move. Lines opened and closed across both of their bodies as they landed hits that healed instantly. It culminated as Mary was forced to lean back, the axe ruffling her hair with airflow as he slashed through the space where her neck and heart had been only a second prior. Flowing with the momentum, Mary flipped, her foot lashing out to nail Breaker in the muzzle. He would have none of that, one black-clad hand reaching forward to rip the sword from her hand. Mary stared, aghast, as his hand around the blade crumpled the sharp metal under his fingers. What now, little sheep? He questioned with a fanged smirk. Mary responded by drawing her fourth pistol of 8 and firing a bullet into his gut. Stop shooting me, I'm a Klabouterman like you, so you know it doesn't work. I know, Mary responded, pulling out her hammers, it's just really fun. Now dual-wielding her hammers, Mary became a whirlwind of spirit essence and corundum, each clash with Breaker causing sparks to fly. Literal sparks, not the romantic kind, on account of the insane force behind their weapons. Shit, Breaker hissed, Mary dropping low to sweep his feet out from under him. The act threw him off balance, the ship girl's right weapon swinging down to slam into his chest blade. The manifested metal there screeched as it crumpled under her hammer. He growled, Mary's boot stomping on his arm to keep his axe down. Stay down, she ordered, her second hammer in his face. He tried to heal the dent in his blade, only for Mary to hit it again, eliciting a cry of pain from him. I said stay down. Too bad for you, my captain can be just as stubborn as yours. Wakebreaker began to shift, his body being sucked into his axe. Mary tried to react in time, but the loss of his bulk under her made her hammer slam into the earth rather than the weapon. Breaker's essence, now free, reformed over the axe, only now in the form of a full snow leopard. He grabbed his axe in his mouth and ran. Get back here, Mary demanded, giving chase. There you are, Sanji said, the relaxed chef staring at the backs of both Shuzo and Alpacachino. He tapped his foot on the ground. Can we get this started so we can get this done? Perhaps, Shuzo responded. He spun, Alpacachino jumping into his hand. Say good night, pirate. Sanji barely moved in response to the projectile, one foot rising to kick the explosive off course. Shuzo scowled. You're one of the reasons Robin Schwan and Amy Dearest are in such trouble. It's time for you to say good night. Diable Humby. Sanji shot forward, forcing Shuzo to bring his zone weapon up to block the flaming kick. Alpacachino brayed in pain as Sanji's flaming shoe seared an imprint into his side. What the hell? Shuzo demanded, pulling away. What kind of devil fruit powers do you have? Devil fruit powers? The chef echoed. I don't need those. These are just the fires of my passion for the ladies of the world. Well, whatever they are, all I need to do is slow you down, so come get some. Pirate. Shuzo kicked into the air with moonwalk, alpacachino in his one hand. Explosives rained down on the straw hat, but Sanji jumped away, following the long arm into the air. Skywalk. That's just the moonwalk technique. The two scowling men met in the middle, the Neo-Marine swinging 5/6 arms matching the pirate's legs blow for blow. Not for the first time, Shuzo cursed the loss of his hand and how he was still learning to compensate for his shorter arm. So far, the only bright part about it was that he got to snub it in Ain's face that he was now more like their beloved Master Z than she was. Concass. Shuzo paid for his momentary distraction by taking a flaming foot to the skull. Sanji's heel dug into his head for a moment before the momentum caught up, sending the long arm into the ground below. Shuzo, however, managed to flip himself over during the fall, landing on his feet with enough force to pulverize the earth upon landing. Meh, his weapon bleeded. I'm fine, alpacachino, he said. Some foot isn't going to take me down. You're sturdier than you look, Sanji commented from above, blowing out a puff from his cigarette. I guess you have to have taken on the moss head. The moron's too tough for anything else. Brochette. Sanji launched himself downward with a spin, forcing Shuzo to jump away. The chef's leg drilled into the earth where he'd been standing. 3-section lariat, Shuzo yelled, swinging his good arm at Sanji's neck. With his foot planted, Sanji needed to duck to avoid the attack. A flash of light caught his eye, though, Sanji realizing his mistake as the boom of alpacachino firing echoed through the air. The projectile exploded, engulfing the blonde in smoke and fire. Shuzo laughed. Biwahahaha. Nice shot, alpacachino, that should do him in. A cough came from within the smoke, turning Shuzo's head. Sanji waved a hand, clearing a portion of the smoke to show that he was undamaged save for smears of soot over his face and clothing. Man, I actually like these clothes, the chef complained, pulling his foot free. How stupidly durable are you pirates? The Neo-Marine demanded. Enough to kick your ass. Sanji shot forward, ducking under Shuzo's swinging arm as his leg came up, slamming into Shuzo's face. Boss coat. His other leg came around, knocking Shuzo off his feet. Launch. While airborne, the long arm brought up his arms to try to block Sanji's next kick, and he was successful as protecting his collarbone, but he opened himself up to the next series. Tendrin, Flanche, Quasi, Q, Kuaso, Jared, Shot. What was supposed to be Sanji's finisher was interrupted, alpacachino interposing himself between Sanji and Shuzo. His hooves carved the earth below as the zone weapon stood his ground, his neck straining as he absorbed the force of the final kick. Alpacachino, Shuzo breathed. Sanji broke their moment as he spun, his other leg coming up to kick the alpaca weapon away. Alpacachino. You couldn't have come up with a shorter name for your damn bazooka? The pirate demanded. Well, doesn't matter now. The hell it doesn't. Shuzo jumped to his feet, his arms swinging. Sanji leapt back, just barely avoiding the appendages. Alpacachino is my best friend and you'll pay for hurting him. In case you forgot, you'll both die if your leader has his way. We know, Shuzo responded, smiling. There's no better way to die than to go out in a blaze of glory, making the world a better place by exterminating your kind. Pirates have no right to live in this world. You're no better than we are, Sanji scowled, his foot swinging upward to nail Shuzo in the chin. His emotion were making him sloppy, something Sanji was full vantage of. How dare you, the long arm muttered through cracked teeth. He staggered, his ears ringing. I'll take you down, for Master Z. Just say down already. Extra hachis. Sanji's legs all but multiplied, kick after kick knocking the breath out of Shuzo. One final kick sent him stumbling back, the man barely standing. Why, he questioned, falling to one knee. Why are you fighting so hard? I fight to protect all the lovely women your scheme would kill. And I'll keep fighting until Amy Dearest is SXY again. That's such a stupid answer. Shuzo fell over, alpacachino nudging him since he had no hope of taking out the pirate on his own. Trusting that the fight was over, Sanji turned back and made his way toward to the main battlefield. Binz had picked a flat stretch of land being used for rice farming as his chosen battlefield, but this was just fine with Jin. He approached slowly, Binz eyeing him as the de-aged monk fiddled with the cuffs of his suit. Do you know who I am? The logia questioned, keeping himself balanced on the raised lines of earth that separated wide, shallow sections of water. Clearly someone affected by Ain's powers, the colorful ninja wannabe answered. Based on clues, you must also be a pirate, right? They call me Electric Devil. I'm Straw Hat that ate Rumble fruit. I see, Binz muttered, eyeing the water. What, you want me to surrender just because you might have an advantage here? Master Z's training ensured that any of his inner circle could counter a logia like you at our hockey. I'd be remiss if I didn't try to ask ya to stand down. Violence shouldn't be first answer, after all. That said, I knew you'd say no, Jin grinned before stepping into the water. Poseidon's current. Electricity sparked, steam rising as the pirate sent a massive charge through the liquid. Binns responded by clasping his hands in a hand sign, hockey covering his legs while a wall of plants grew around him. The electricity struck the living wall, burning black lines into its green side. "You will need to try harder than that, pirate," Binns said. "I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but I guess we're doing this now." Jin pulled a pair of empty pistols from his pockets and aimed, pulling the triggers. A hum buzzed through the air as bullets of pure electricity shot through the air, the smell of ozone permeating the surroundings. Binns danced, plants sprouting to block the lightning. "Moza Moza," the Neo-Marine sang, his plants shedding their scorched parts and growing toward the pirate. Jin's eyes narrowed, the man turned team running from his position with the plants in hot pursuit. The advantage of irregular ammo for his mid-range weapons allowed Jin to fire continuously at Binns even with the flora chasing him, but the battlefield also allowed Binns virtually unlimited nutrients for his plants. Every miniature lightning bolt seared his shield, but the plant wall simply regenerated in the next second. Water splashed as Jin came to a stop, the pirate jumping upward while the chasing vines overtook his pervious position. The suit-wearing monk sprouted his electric wings as he flipped, using his hands to balance on the greenery. "Zeus touch," he said, sparks flaring around him. The vines' internal temperatures soared as the electric current Jin sent through them boiled the water within. They browned, withering away under his hands. Binns' eyes narrowed. "Moza Moza," he cried, thorns sprouting from his wall. "Moza Moza, grow, grow." The wall expanded as Binns mimed pushing it forward, the plant launching itself toward Jin with more speed than any plant had a right to. Jin holstered his pistols before reaching behind and drawing his cannon, taking aim at the approaching wall. Energy sparked in the barrel, electricity running along grooves in the metal as Jin condensed it into a sphere. In a way, it was a lesser version of Sunny's gown cannon, though the weapon used did not have the integrity needed to survive its ordeal. Nemean bolt, he named the attack, launching the ball from the cannon.
Thunder boomed as it shot forward, colliding with the plant wall in a flash of light that exploded. Jin shot forward as he tossed aside the now ruined cannon, each step sending steam into the air as he dove through the hole his attack created before it could heal. Binns recoiled as the pirate penetrated his defenses. Jin landed in a kneeling position, his hands, feet, and the ends of his lightning wings all in the water that covered their battlefield. Poseidon's current. Not having time to grow a new defense, Binns covered his legs in armament hockey. The layering took away some of the bite of the electricity, but it still sent a painful jolt through his nervous system. Jin took advantage of this momentary break, jumping forward as he drew his weighted tonfa. They shone, blackness crawling up the golden ends as Jin activated his own hockey, an unyielding, unforgiving gleam in his eye.
"Moza," Binns tried to counter, a single plant rising out of the water between himself and the path of the tonfa, but the moment proved to be against him. A violet glow surrounded Jin, the man's body rapidly aging back to its normal time. Binns' eyes widened as the effects of Ain's return fruit were undone in a mere moment. Astrape's arc. The tonfa slammed into the hasty wall, tearing through its shoots and leaves in an explosion of chlorophyll. Mo, the colorful ninja began only for the weights to cut him off, crashing into his jaw. He spun once, his long arms flailing with the force of his spin. His eyes swirled before, almost in slow motion. Binns tumbled backward, landing with a splash as darkness crept into his vision. "Moza, Master Z, I have failed you." "And stay down," Jin ordered, cracking his neck. "I do not know what transpired or why we are here, but I wish to never go through such an ordeal again," the familiar voice of Rum whispered in his brain. Jin adjusted his now too small suit. "Can't say I'm happy to hear your drivel," Jin muttered, "but I'm glad to not be 15 anymore. Thank you, Zoro." "Is that what happened to us? How unrefined, but I should have expected a country bumpkin to fall for such a ridiculous scheme, whatever it was." "Shut up, Rum. I didn't miss you, but I'll take yaw over th alternative. And I too am delighted I am cognizant again, my dear oaf." "Oh," Amy moaned, her, Usopp, Robin, Chopper, and Brooke all finding themselves surrounded by a similar purple glow. Their bodies grew, Amy and Usopp most notably compared to their older crewmates. Amy in particular found herself in a predicament, her scaled armor, thankfully a two-piece, now did not cover her stomach. The skirt rode up some as her hips widened and the chest piece was too small, restricting her breathing. "Oh my," Brooke sighed, wiggling dramatically as he glowed with no outward sign of change. His hands came up to his afro. "I got older, the days of my youth are gone. Well, I'll admit 90 feels pretty good." "You still don't look different," Nami said, ignoring the groaning Neo-Marines that littered the ground around her. Ace hopped on one's stomach like he was a trampoline, his very sharp stick now with a red point from all the legs he'd poked with it. "Auntie Amy and Uncle Usopp are auntie and uncle again." The boy cheered. "You okay, Auntie Amy?" "I'm fine," Ace, the blonde insisted, her sister helping to loosen her too tight top. Kitty clothes just don't fit us adults. That makes sense, Ace nodded. Is it because your boobies are too big again? Where did you hear that? Nami demanded as Usopp, Brook, and Robin laughed, though the latter kept hers as a muffled chuckle. Uncle Sanji. The answer proved to redouble the crew's mirth. Nami felt an eye twitch. I'm going to kill him, she muttered. Die. A Neo-Marine that had been on the ground surged upward. His sword aimed for the navigator's throat. She gasped, swinging her perfect clean attack around, but he never reached the wind wall she created. The Neo-Marine grunted in pain, looking Dovery's sharp stick had stabbed into his thigh. Ace pulled it out with a yell, the man falling to the ground again. His helmet rolled away as he collapsed, opening him to a beating as Ace swung the very sharp stick against the top of his skull again and again. Not my mommy. You, meanie, that's enough, Ace, Nami ordered, noting that the man was now foaming at the mouth. Good job, Ace, Grace praised, ruffling the boy's hair. Moving on, Big Sis and the others being back to normal means that Zoro defeated Ain, and I'd bet that the others have finished their fights too. Based on our track record, that means only Z and the Lucky Mooks that have avoided fighting are left, and Luffy should be in the middle of fighting Z. We gotta go cheer for Daddy, Ace declared, wholly unfazed that he just beat a full-grown man into unconsciousness. I wanna see Daddy fight the bad metal arm guy. I'll stay with Sunny and make sure we're super ready to take off, Frankie said with a thumbs up. The rest of you can go back up Luffy. Sounds like a plan, Coby nodded, growing into his Dino mode. He knelt, Grace lifting Ace to set the boy on the Triceratops before hopping up as well. Nami, for her part, jumped onto Billy's back, leaving the rest of the crew on foot to chase after them. Only a few Neo-Marines tried to get in their way as the group hurried to the top of the dormant volcano, but they were swiftly, and non-lethally, dealt with. You little punk. Z's voice roared as the crew crested the apex. Jin, Zoro, and Sanji were already present, though Mary was still absent. Why do you keep fighting? You know we're both gonna die here. And even if you do make it out, you're still a pirate. Shut up. Their captain yelled back. Both fighters faced each other down below, Z's metal arm having several bad dents in it that were, as far as they could tell, new as of minutes ago. Luffy's shirt was missing, his torso, like Z's, covered in bruises. I'm doing whatever I want because I have the freedom to do so, and I refuse to let my son live or die in a world where people like you get to tell him no. Where people like you get to tell him what he can or can't be. You've got guts, I'll give you that. You could teach those greenhorns in the Marines a thing or two about never giving up, the leader of the Neo-Marines panted, wiping blood from the corner of a smile. Cracks worked their way up his machine, the bulk of it falling to scraps and pieces with a couple of explosions as the inner workings failed. Z frowned, looking down at a normal prosthetic that had been hidden beneath. Doing whatever you want, huh? Sounds nice. I guess I'll do the same thing. I'll crush every pirate's dreams into dust, and if you want to stand in my way, then you'll be the first. You can take the crown of the Pirate King to the goddamned grave. We'll see whose convictions are stronger. You've already decided to die, Luffy rebuffed, matching Z's charge. The steam of his second gear rose as he pumped up his blood flow. Haki crawled up both fighters' arms, leaving all upper appendages black as midnight. I'm fighting for my crew. We aren't the same because I have ambitions beyond this. You can't say the same. They're really going at it, Chopper said. Each hit the fighters below landed on each other, causing a shockwave that threatened to crack the casings of the dynastones scattered about the area. Ace stared at the scene with fear and wonder, having never truly seen his father duke it out with someone of his level. Luffy's got this, Usopp assured them, the waver almost gone from his voice. Down below, Luffy blew air into his fist and punched Z with a giant pistol. In response, Z grabbed one of Luffy's expanded fingers and flipped the pirate over his head, slamming the captain into the obsidian hard enough to crack it. Lava bubbled at the ends of the loss of structural integrity. We just had to trust in him. Black Arm, Zephyr is back, a voice said, the pirates turning to see Kuzan standing at their side. I'm glad I'm around to see it. Kuzan, Coby gasped. So you're here, too. The biggest threat to the world is right below us. I couldn't exactly just ride on by. Below, Luffy landed a lucky hit, shattering Z's sunglasses. The former admiral stumbled back, his nose turning an ugly shade of purple. Pirate and Neo-Marine alike panted for air, patches of lava billowing foul chemicals and the smell of sulfur into the surroundings. From the other side of the basin came a snow leopard carrying an axe in its jaws, a goat with enough wool to pass as a sheep wearing Mary's clothes following it closely. The leopard turned, slashing the air with the axe hard enough to send an air slash at the ungulate. The goat kicked off the air, flipping over the slash before bringing its horns down in a headbutt that caved the earth where the leopard had been. Stop running, you coward, Mary demanded. The leopard did not respond, only throwing another air slash but this time in the opposite direction. Confused, Mary traced its expected path with her eyes only to see it was aimed at her captain. Wait, nope, Captain Luffy. Daddy, watch out, Ace yelled, jumping forward as if he would be able to do anything. The edge of the crater proved to be too steep, the boy losing his footing and tumbling down. "Ace!" Nami cried, instantly spurring Billy forward to catch her son. While neither Mary nor Ace could do anything about the surprise attack on Luffy, Coby could, the Rosset vanishing in a shave to reappear in the way of the attack. Hishokusha shot out, redirecting the slash into the air where it fizzled out harmlessly. "If you want to doom the entirety of the new world by killing my captain with a cheap trick like that, then you'll have to go through me first." "Coby," Luffy coughed with a small grin. "Thanks, I'll leave him to you." "The pirate that claims to be a hero," Z muttered, eyeing Koby's back. Breaker skidded to a stop, shifting out of his animal form to appear humanoid, clothed in the default white raincoat. He growled, his eyes darting between Coby ahead and Mary behind. "Wakebreaker, stand down." "But sir," the Clabouterman tried to protest, "these pirates are only stopping you from getting close. Let us captains handle this." He turned, a darkening eyes narrowing at Luffy. "Well, I won't quit," the rubberman swore. "With my family and crew behind me, I will be the king of the piratas." "Well, your majesty," Z mocked, stepping forward. "Eat this." He threw a hockey-coated haymaker into Luffy's cheek, the pirate planting his feet and tanking the blow. Gritting his teeth, Luffy threw one of his own, the force of his punch making Z take a single step back. Luffy stepped forward to match this, the pirate pounding his chest with 2 more blows before damage to his leg made Luffy fall to one knee. "Ha!" Z breathed, an uppercut sending Luffy onto his back. The pirates let out worried cries for their captain. "Is that it? Is that all the conviction you?" Luffy moved, both of his feet slamming into Z's solar plexus. The aged man coughed, the blow making him stumble. He stood, staring at the pirate, before something gave and he tipped backwards. He laid there, taking in air with short, pained breaths as his asthma attacked him. "Master Z!" Breaker yelled, Coby blocking his path.
Well, Luffy panted, waiting. "I'm getting old," Z admitted from the ground. "I want to get up, but my body won't listen to me. I used to be stronger than this, used to go longer and fight harder. It's a damn shame. Every time I find joy in this world, it always seems to get away from me."
"Daddy did it," Ace cheered, setting off a chain reaction of celebration from the pirates. Taking that to mean the fight was over, Luffy trudged to the Dyna stone that had his hat, the pirate reclaiming the stolen article. He turned back, Z forcing himself into a sitting position. "What, you want to keep going?" "No." Z sighed with a shake of his head. "When a man has big dreams, he tramples everything in his way. You've won. Now take your hat, I don't need your life," Luffy said, placing his hat where it belonged. "Besides, I refuse to kill someone who's already down. It's just murder at that point. A certain crybaby taught me that a long time ago." "Damn it, Captain," Coby yelled, "I'm not a crybaby anymore." "Ha," Z chuckled, coughing up some blood. "You're the boy that claims to be a hero. The one that finally made Kuzan grow a spine and stand up. Such a waste."
"Pardon my manners if I disagree," former Admiral Zephyr, Coby rebuffed. "I see a life in the corrupt Marines as a waste compared to my life as a pirate. When legal restrictions keep you from doing what's right, then the law is meaningless and justice flawed."
"Maybe," Z sighed. "Had you joined up, I would have liked to have taught you a thing or two. Based on what Kuzan said, it almost sounded like you could have fixed him. Too bad we'll never find out." "Yeah," Coby agreed. "It's a real shame." "Luffy," the rest of the crew yelled, the group reaching the bottom of the crater. "Hey guys," Luffy grinned. Nami was the first to reach him, his wife grabbing his cheek and stretching it out. "Don't you, hey guys, Luffy," she said before hugging him, tears carving lines through the dust and grime on her face. Chopper and Ace were not far behind, the former crawling up his side while the latter latched onto his knee. "You had us worried sick for a minute there." "Yeah, but I won and got my hat back, so it's all good, right?" "Daddy's the bestest ever," Ace nodded. "Master Z," Ain called, she and the other lieutenants now at his side, the Clabouterman helping the old man stand. "Ain," Z coughed. "Bins, Shuzo, Wakebreaker, I'm sorry. You all suffered so much for my sake." "Suffer?" Ain parroted. "No, master. Never. Your dream was always ours, too." Well, the gang's all here. How convenient." Everyone, pirates and neo-marines alike, jolted at the drawling voice, everyone looking up to see a woman in a yellow, pinstripe suit and an admiral coat.
"Kizaru," Coby gasped, recognizing the individual.
She. Despite the tense atmosphere, Luffy could not hold back the laugh, turning the light Logia's attention on him. She ha ha ha. "What's so funny, Straw Hat?" Kizaru demanded. "The Marines have you surrounded and you're in no state to put up a decent fight. You're practically already in chains." "You're still a woman." She, PPPPFFFF, Jin wheezed, turning away and covering his mouth. One of Kizaru's eyes twitched. "That's it," the admiral declared, light glinting at Kizaru's fingertips. "You all die, Yasakani sacred jewel." Z grinned, ripping up obsidian from the ground below to intercept the beams of light that went for the pirates. In blocking those, he failed to stop the ones that pierced his shoulder and side. "Master Z!" the lieutenants cried. "You beat me, Straw Hat, Luffy," Z grinned, planting his feet to keep from falling again. "That means you won the right to continue your journey. Leave this fight to me." As if to punctuate his words, a wall of ice formed, blocking off Z from the rest of them, trapping him in with the Marines. In doing so, Kuzan had also frozen the remaining Dynastones, ensuring they wouldn't explode and put the last endpoint at risk. "Master Z!" Ain screamed, slamming her fists against the wall. Binz and Shuzo stared at the scene in shock. "I refuse," Wakebreaker declared, throwing his axe over the wall. He faded as the weapon left his hand, the heart disappearing over the divide. The blade stabbed into the earth on the other side, the Clabouterman reforming. "The hell do you think you're doing, Breaker?" Z questioned, the Marines charging them. "It's the duty of a ship to go down alongside the captain," the cat-headed fairy responded with a sad smile. "You can't stop me now that I'm here. I can help you stall them long enough for the others to get away." "You're a damned fool." Z shook his head. "Well, you had to get it from the rest of us, I guess, though I'm sorry to have borne you into this mission." "I was alive before you defected," Breaker admitted. "I chose this mission as much as the rest of you." "Now isn't the time for a heart-to-heart," Kizaru interrupted, sending a beam through Wakebreaker's face. His body stumbled as the head regenerated. "Damn fairies. They couldn't just stay a myth or form on our side." "How nice of you boys to give your teacher a place to die," Z smiled. "Listen up, Master's got one last lesson to teach y'all, teamwork." "Come on, Luffy," Usopp insisted, tugging at the captain's arm as something exploded on the other side of the ice wall. "We gotta get out of here." "He's right, Don," Jin agreed. "Now's our chance to retreat." "Let's go, everyone," Luffy nodded, scooping Ace into his arms. The pirates fled, explosions echoing from the other side of the ice wall. They didn't stay to see the aftermath or how the battle on the other side would end. As promised, Frankie and Sunny were ready to sail when they returned, each pirate climbing to the deck without a moment's wait as the ship pulled out. Marine battleships rocked the water with cannonballs, but any that came close enough to threaten Sunny were stopped by Mary, the older Clabouterman taking them for the crew's energy build. Frankie grinned, pulling his favorite lever. Coup de burst. With the battle won and hearts mostly settled, the Straw Hat Pirates escaped the Marines once more, their next adventure already forming on the wind.